Yeah, check that out. Oh, we did.
Hey.
Okay. Hey,
All
we are back. Check that out. That's not something that, can't hear me. Well, we're going to start that again. Welcome, everybody, back to Let's Set the Tone, episode 15 here. So you've already heard stuff. You didn't hear stuff, but you heard stuff. So I'm going to try this again. Special guest tonight is John here, somebody I've been trying to get on here for the better part of a year. We've had to move around, at least one reschedule. Hey, we all got busy. We got obligations. It happens. And it's just kind of part of it. But I did ask you initially if you had any AKs or nicknames, because I like to do that. But you said you don't have any, right?
Yeah, none in particular. Like I said, that nobody else heard except you, but it was kind of funny. Like if there is a nickname out there, I'm not aware of it, and that's probably good for my self-esteem.
Right. There's always those hidden ones out there as well too. But other than that, one of the things that I had just kind of mentioned was, one of the unique things about you specifically is we always come across topics, literally random as it is, whether it's, literally anything. There's nothing, music I know is one specific one, but it's always like we have these random common interests and it's like not something that you usually have in common with somebody, at least for me. So it's always exciting. And that's why I think we always joke, like, are we related? Like, are we cousins or something like that? So I do appreciate that because, I love getting to know people. I love those kind of things. And there's always those ones that it feels like I said, like not everybody else gets that. But there are things with you that you just kind of happen to get and understand. I love that. So I do appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, it's been interesting just in the time that we've known each other, how many, just random, like shoot you off a video or a meme or mention a band or recommend like a beer or a restaurant or something. And it's almost like I love sharing and showing people things that I like, but it's almost cooler when you're like, oh hell yes, I know that. I love that. And then it's this other layer of this friendship and that's something that's really cool for me because so many of my friends still today they're friends that I've had since preschool in some cases, middle school, high school. Most of the people I know I've known longer than I haven't.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for a long time I thought like, it's kind of it's hard to like make new friends, as an adult, and in some ways it is, but
I agree.
But man, I don't know if you planned on touching on how we met at all.
It's coming,
I think we became really fast friends, and boy, I love chatting with you, and it's. And again, just like you talked about, this just sitting down here has been so long in the making. I'm just thrilled, to see you.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And then everybody else who watches you gets to see you.
Yeah,
so.
You get to sit down and be part of it. That's right. Well, before we get into the meeting part, and like I said, I love that you're already thinking that. We had to move time around today, and of course with me it's pretty open. I try to work around everybody else's schedule for this anyways. Like I try to keep it on the weekends because I feel like during the middle of the week when we're all working, it's tough to come over for the middle of the week for a couple hours and hang out and have a conversation. Like nobody likes to do that. If people need to do that, that's fine, I can accommodate that, but most times it just seems to work out Friday nights or Saturdays or whatever it is. Sure. And sometimes Sundays as well. But today when I said, hey, what do we think of a time frame, you had something that kind of changed around your schedule. You were playing D&D today.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That's first of all the reasons to be able to move my time around, that's a fantastic reason. I don't know if you noticed, but this is all D&D right here. They have even got second edition mid-90s like old core rule books and stuff back here.
That's rad.
So, D&D is definitely something that we talk about often around here. So the fact that you were able to do that today as well. So let me ask, do you DM? Are you the DM?
No, I am not.
Okay.
So we had we've got this party, and I'm still relatively new. Like we just kicked off the second campaign that this group is playing through.
That's great.
We had a group of friends. Let me back up. My son kind of got hot on the idea of D&D through Stranger Things, right? Like a lot of younger kids. And so we picked up that starter set that was like the Stranger Things themed set.
Yeah.
And I opened it up, we looked at it, and I was like, I have no idea. Like, immediately overwhelmed, intimidated, closed it up, slid it away. Well, he ended up starting playing with a group through the Bay Area YMCA.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this was a few years ago.
Wow. Okay.
And they had quite a large group initially, and there was a fee involved, but that included the players' handbook, and they got to keep that. And they did like two or three rounds playing at the Y, and the gentleman who was facilitating that kind of said, I think we've outgrown what the Y can offer us, and they've been wonderful and we appreciate it, but if all of the players are willing, we're going to move this to my home, and his place looks like your place. I mean, he's got like the pre-made gaming table, like camera down, monitor. Cool. So at the same time that my son started to get into it, we had a friend group that was just looking for reliable players. They just couldn't get a group that stuck, right? And so they reached out to us. They knew my son was playing. They knew that we had at least an interest in it. So we were like, what the heck? And I mean, it's been well over, going on 2 years of this same group. We did the Neverwinter, or like that Ice Spire, the whole dragon thing, that kind of introductory, and kind of cut our teeth on that, and just really, we play bi-weekly, normally every Sunday, but due to one of our members' birthday, we moved it to today, which jammed us up a little bit, and we just moved it to this evening.
No worries.
But we had a great session today, so we're just kicking off. This is like the third round with we did all new characters.
Awesome.
And everybody's a little bit more familiar with how to play, just the mechanics of it, and certainly for me, like, just the concept of more actually role playing than just like, what's the, okay, I'm just gonna run up, and I always call it Draxing. Like, I'm just gonna, I was a rogue tiefling in our first
That's
campaign.
Great combo, and
it was rad. So I mean, good, short bow, ranged attacks and stuff, and then I would just always run up and just Drax it, right?
It's the best.
So this time around, I wanted to do a spell casting character, and just to try to learn that aspect of the gameplay too. So we leveled up to 3.
Nice.
Today. Just a little while ago.
Okay.
So got to pick a subclass, and got to go research some more for this new character. But we love it. My wife plays. I play, and just a great group of friends, and cool. We get to do that. That's great. It's super rad.
Yeah, that's great. D&D is I always say D&D, like, of all, I play video games, I play board games, any tabletop, whatever it is, but my favorite type of gaming will always be number one is Dungeons and Dragons. I'd rather roll dice and role play all day. Combat's fun, but role playing is where it's at anyways for me. So you were a tiefling rogue the first time, and are you wizard mage, like?
Well, so I'm doing a Goliath warlock.
Oh, a Goliath warlock. Yeah. That's a tall order.
Yeah, so it was, and I think the idea when I was looking at the new player's handbook, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still green on this, even after all this time, but I liked the idea of, to kind of help me get into role playing, I wanted to have a character that had a little bit of like inner conflict,
Sure.
right, and a little bit of backstory, and that was something that we didn't do the first time.
Right.
It was real quick. It was roll the dice. It was you're this, you're that. But our DM Anthony, who's amazing, tasked us with preparing a backstory, and so I got to think about how does a Goliath end up even being interested in that, right?
There you go.
And
that's the lore right there. That's the fun stuff.
So I mean, writing and I love to read and I love to write. So I mean, like, to be able to incorporate that into the story of the character and the gameplay was really fun, and helped and is helping me kind of get more into the character when we play.
That's cool. I love it. Big fan. That's in 4th edition, about 10 years ago, when we were doing our big campaign. It was over 10 years ago. Jesus, now at this point, a couple of characters that our main tanks were Goliaths. So, and then of course, if you've ever seen Vox Machina on Amazon Prime, you familiar?
Yep.
With all that Critical Role stuff, one of their main ones, of course, he's a Goliath. So. Yeah, it's great. That's awesome. Yeah, I love to hear that. I'm a big rogue guy myself. That's my favorite class, and I feel like now that I'm getting later in years, I still typically lean rogue, but I always want to try out some of the different classes and different stuff too, because 90% of the time I play rogue in all games I play, so it's tough not to, just because I feel like they're the funnest to role play overall. But
absolutely.
But I see you out there, Prime. You're getting that Eldest Snow. I appreciate you. Thank you for those comments. It's awesome singing. Have you ever seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Oh, that
Been a long time.
Vaguely.
Yeah. He's singing one of the songs of that's pretty funny out there. So, but yeah. So to kind of spin it back, so how did we first meet? Do you remember then?
I remember. So
long 2016.
Yeah, and so. You were having a wedding
at the time. Yep.
You were getting married, and you had put in a request to the Great Lakes Garrison of the 501st Legion, which is Star Wars Costuming Club, which I'm sure most of the folks know, to do an appearance at your wedding, and we actually had. Some people have moved away, but there was a pretty decent contingent, of folks right in the mid-Michigan area, who ended up answering the call, and we got to come out to your wedding reception, and God, I think we did like a little, like when you guys came in at the reception.
It was.
There was a lot of photos taken with the bridal party and you guys, and there was a lot of photos of us taken like in a different room, because like you're not supposed to take like your helmets off, kind of Disney rules, you're not supposed to take your helmets off in public and stuff, and you're supposed to keep up the appearance, but we had some good pictures of Jim and Johnny and Dan and I, in that back room, and we're like got our helmets and we're just like drinking beers and eating chicken and mashed potatoes and stuff, and like Chewbacca with his head off, like just slamming a beer and having a
good old John
chicken
Henry
leg.
Yeah.
So that was, and then in hindsight, I realized what I knew you from GameStop.
You and Dan both, actually.
Yep. So it was like, that was you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That, blah, blah.
Kind of makes sense, yeah.
But we, I think we've stayed in touch ever since then.
Yeah, I don't remember. Dan was especially somebody who shopped a lot with us, because when we really started carrying the collectibles, that's when I really started to have that, or see him consistently, because he came up to the where we're sitting there having our meal, and he's like, "Hey, I know you," and he lifted his helmet, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus, it's Dan! Like, I see you all the time, right?" That sort of thing. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. I mean, definitely that situation, of course, is it's not the same situation anymore. It is what it is. But that memory was still pretty awesome, because a lot of people still reference it, talk about it, remember it, because it's not every day you show up or see a Star Wars wedding with. I mean, legitimate 501st folks that coming in. I mean, everybody loves, of course, Chewbacca. When you see Chewbacca, people freak out anyways. I feel like, and John he's a tall guy.
He's legitimately got the height.
Yeah,
he's one of the sweetest people in the world.
Great guy.
And whenever I'm with him in costume, like I just want, I'm 5 again. Like I want to hug him.
Yeah, you gotta hug Chewbacca.
It's wild.
Yeah.
He's an amazing. He loves the character.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously, I mean, like his height makes sense for it, but he's genuinely passionate about the character too, and how important he is to the story.
Absolutely. And outside of that too, like I don't know how for sure how it was that you and I think it was just I found you on Facebook because got to know Kat pretty well as well right away too. So I know John had come out to one of my Battlefront. Him and Dan did one of my events at a GameStop too. And of course I never got to really know Jim really well, but I can tell you to have a Vader that authentic from what I understood, didn't always get to happen like that. I got pretty lucky having a Vader there. I felt like too.
100%. And Jim's one of the best. I mean, he was at the very first event that I ever did, and again, I've been in the 501st for 10 years. I joined in 2015.
Okay, that's what.
And
not to sell yourself short, the TIE pilot is pretty gnarly. I mean, I'm a big Imperial guy normally, anyways. The TIE pilot is. That's
it. Yeah, it's a killer costume.
Yeah,
and it was funny. I mean, it looks amazing. Wasn't necessarily one of my favorite armors ever, but this opportunity came to scoop up this helmet actually from another 501st member in Poland that I connected with on forums and things like that. And I'm Polish heritage, so I was kind of looking for some 501st Poland swag, sticker, patch, whatever, and got in touch with this guy named Derek, and he ended up having a helmet for sale. So I bought that helmet from him, and then I was like, okay, now I have a TIE pilot helmet. Now I got to figure out the rest of the costume. Right. The costume that I had prior to that was a biker scout costume, and that was my first one, and that was when I was looking at getting into the 501st. It was like, what are you gonna pick? There's so much.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, certainly there's things you have to be budget conscious, you have to be time conscious to put this stuff together. And I ultimately decided, like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do the thing that I'm going to love to wear the most, and that is the Biker Scout.
Yeah.
That is Return of the Jedi Biker Scout. Yeah. Absolutely my favorite costume.
The sweet pistol too.
Yeah, the little mini one that goes in the boot holster.
Such a cool pistol.
And it just, I mean, it improved upon the iconic Stormtrooper look so much, I think, and it was, with the exception of having blinders while you're going 8,000 miles an hour through the woods. Yeah. It was functional. And there's a lot of soft parts of that costume. So there's not as much armor as a regular Stormtrooper. So it was a little bit more affordable, because a lot of the soft parts we could do ourselves, so I enlisted my mom, to help me do some sewing. I learned how to do a lot of sewing and stuff.
You'd have to, right?
And it was really, really, really rewarding to get involved in particularly that Biker Scout community, because every costume has its own forum. Well, it's like a dedicated little subgroup. They called them detachments.
Okay, right.
So you have the 501st Legion, and then there's the Pathfinder Detachment, which is like Biker Scouts, Kashyyyk Troopers.
Oh, okay, really.
And then like the TIE Fighter pilots are part of Jolly Roger Squadron, right?
Okay.
So that's their detachment.
That's cool.
And they do like all the different variations, like, because the TIE pilots in A New Hope are a little different
They
than
are.
the TIE pilots in Empire or Return of the Jedi in some cases.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, in the prequels and or in the
sequels,
you know,
maybe?
yeah.
Yeah, and
You
then,
know what I'm saying? Force Awakens.
yeah,
First order.
yeah,
pilots.
because and then also too, like the Inferno crew now, because the
Yep.
Battlefront as well probably is part of now
Yep,
different
absolutely,
too, with Iden Versio or whatever. So that's crazy.
So they kind of fall into those categories
Yeah.
by costume type.
That's cool.
Snow troopers or snow associated troopers, and then Sith lords, and
So wild.
everyone has
It's
his own
cool.
dedicated forums and communities within the group where they research the costumes and, you know, share builds and
Yeah,
techniques and tricks and resources.
huge.
And yeah, it's a massive community. It's, you know, 30,000
yeah.
members.
I was kind of
globally.
wondered what that was. So if you can, so just in case you're not really a Star Wars person generally, can you explain like an elevator pitch of what the 501st Legion basically is?
So that would have probably made more sense to start with that.
It's all good. It's all good. That's why I'm here.
But yeah, it's a worldwide organization that builds and wears screen accurate Star Wars costumes, typically of the bad guy variety, right? It kind of started just as Imperials, but then it sort of expanded to Sith Lords, to maybe underworld characters, bounty hunters, etc. There is a sister organization called the Rebel Legion that focuses on the Jedi characters, on the quote-unquote good guys. And so the focus is really building screen-accurate costume and prop replicas. And then in those costumes, doing good for your local community. I mean, the tagline of the 501st is "Bad guys doing good."
Right.
And that can be anything from private events like your wedding, library, Star Wars reads days, children's hospital visits, community events, corporate events, sporting events.
Yeah, because you guys work with the Dow.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you ever go to if you have like a minor league baseball team, like here we have the Loons or the Saginaw Spirit hockey team, or even the Detroit Tigers, when they have Star Wars night and you see those characters out there, that's that group.
Yeah.
I've gotten to be on stage with Weird Al Yankovic.
That's gnarly.
He was famously would have 501st members come up in each city that he played in during the
and it's
the
one of
Saga
my
Begins.
which is, in my opinion, and I love a lot of his music because he's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is one of my all-time favorites. That song is.
I love Don McLean's American Pie anyway. I mean,
Correct.
who doesn't?
Who
right?
doesn't? Yep.
And what a beautiful version to spin it into a Star Wars
so amazing.
And then the first time I got to do that was at Soaring Eagle. And it was like an all-day thing. I mean, we had to get there early. I have like the backstage. It says like Weird Al 501st access.
That's great. Cool.
And we had our own like little dressing room and stuff. And we did like sound check with them, like rehearsed, and then you just kind of sit around while he does his whole show.
That's awesome.
Because that was the encore, right?
Yeah.
What was the Star Wars song? And so we all come out, and then they just play. And I mean, he's a consummate professional.
Yeah.
I mean, it's staggering.
And literally a
how talented.
nerd.
Totally.
Huge. Just like us. I mean, he would, if we were down here, he would be like in his zone too. Like,
absolutely.
He's such an awesome guy.
So I mean, that was definitely like a neat little kind of perk thing that we got to do. 501st does a ton of like comic cons, big one, C2E2, San Diego, or even these smaller local shows like Midland Mall or Motor City, which is not a small show by any stretch, but so that kind of stuff. And the ultimate goal is we're sharing Star Wars and using it to typically to raise money for some associated charity. Most often at least with our Michigan group, it would have been Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah, that's what the way I was Make-A-Wish, right? Yep.
Yep. So like if you go to a con and you want to get a picture taken, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to have the 501st come out. But you're not always guaranteed to have people available or the characters that you want. And then, you know, we might encourage you, hey, like, would you be like, we'll come do your thing, but would you be willing to make a donation?
Yeah, on your behalf,
you know,
which is what I know what I did too. Yeah,
behalf. Yep, exactly.
For the Make-A-Wish. Yeah, heck yeah.
So I mean that's kind of the thrust of it. And I've heard a lot of in my 10 years being involved in it. And one of the roles that I took on in that group was what they call a garrison membership liaison. So if you wanted to join, you would choose the costume that you wanted to build. You would join one of those forums. You would do all the research. You would find the reputable vendors. You would put your costume together, and then you would send pictures of it to me, and I would have to evaluate that costume against the standards that are set by that costumes detachment.
Because we're talking like specific things, even like a belt buckle or a certain button placement or a certain look specifically, and that's probably also if you're trying to say I'm a Return of the Jedi version or Empire, right? Am I right on that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I mean, like right down. I mean, the minutia of it is what makes it look as good as it does. So it's important, right? And a lot of times people would be like, yeah, that little kid isn't going to care if this belt buckle is a different size than it's supposed to be. But it's like, why have standards at all then?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I think a lot of people, and while the charity aspect of it is certainly impressive and important, I always approached it as like, we're a costume club first, right? And we have these standards to make sure we look the best that we can. And we represent the brand through the graciousness of Lucasfilm and then later Disney to let us walk around in their IP. And they don't know what 30,000 people around the world are going to do.
Right. So that standard is important.
It is. It very much
if you want to be able to have that ability to keep doing that without them sending you a cease and desist. So,
absolutely.
Honestly, that's great. That's cool. And then, so for you, it was kind of a unique story how you got into it, right? Or how you got to build your first costume. Is that accurate?
Yeah,
you want to talk about that a little bit?
I do. Yeah. Is this some of your surveillance info? So
Imperial Network is vast.
My wife, a good friend of ours, good friends of ours, I should say, were going to renew their wedding vows in Las Vegas. I am not an enthusiastic traveler.
Right. Is it the plane thing, or you just don't really?
Just in general.
Okay.
I mean, the whole thing.
Right.
You know,
that's fair.
Driving to the airport is probably more stressful than the plane. The plane is stressful enough.
Correct.
It's all expensive. It's all crazy.
Right.
It's just I just want to go home and lay down.
Right. Maybe play some D&D.
Exactly. So I had zero interest in going to Las Vegas. My wife wanted to go. I said, go have fun. A big group of friends went, and they had an amazing time. She still talks about this pork belly sandwich that she had at, I think it was Tom Colicchio's restaurant. I could be wrong about that.
Food in Vegas is very special.
But while she was there, I took my son to a Star Wars Reads Day. Was at Barnes and Noble at the Midland Mall, and that was where I met Jim, who was Vader.
Oh, cool.
And Dan.
Oh, Dan. Okay. Crazy Dan.
And then Crazy Dan.
Crazy Dan.
And then another guy, Big Bill, who was the clone trooper.
Okay.
Who I also worked with and didn't really know he did that. So it was super weird.
I love those stories. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
And so it planted the seed that this is doable. Okay. I mean, like I'm seeing people do this in real life, right? So I started kind of texting her while she was gone, and like, I'm gonna get I'm getting a full size wearable stormtrooper suit, you know. And so when she came home, we kind of talked about, okay, well, how much did the trip cost? You know, and it was whatever it was, you know, $1,500, some airfare and time there. And she said, well, since you didn't go, you know, spend what I spent on Vegas toward a Star Wars costume. So
What a wife.
that was it, man.
That's gnarly. That's great.
And then I subsequently took over the dining room table for a very long time.
I heard that.
Making boots and gluing armor together, and
Yeah.
yeah, she was had patience of a saint with all of that. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, so the first one was the Scout.
Yep.
Correct. Okay. Doing that as you did it, I mean, was there specific difficulties, or once you guys got kind of going and doing it together, you're like, oh, it's not so bad actually. You just got to kind of keep going or work, or was there just some stuff where you're like, man, this is crazy, I'm out of my wheelhouse? Or
no, it was. I mean, honestly, the sewing part was probably the toughest for me, but my mom is really good at that, so I leaned on her a ton to help me with some of the soft parts of the costume.
Cool. Okay.
But honestly, that biker scout community in particular was so great on their forum of responsiveness and suggestions and tips and hints, and try this, or don't, I see what you're doing, stop, you know.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of, I mean, and it was like you had to post pictures of like Photo Bucket and copy links and stuff. It was, I mean, you know, 10 years ago.
Yeah, we were still dealing with that sort of stuff.
So pretty old kind of, you know, forum technology. But that group really, I credit them fully with me successfully completing that costume. Okay. And I've made some genuine, I mean, friends I have not met in person. Darth Voorhees, Lou from New York, Mickey Bukowski from California.
It's great, isn't it?
I mean, people that I like think about, you know, and stay. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but when I was, certainly just stayed in touch with those guys. Yeah. Once I finished my costume, I wasn't super active. I mean, I tried to stay on and, you know, follow and kind of give the same advice that I got to new people who were working on it. But yeah, I mean, it was. I love Adventure Time, right?
You are a big Adventure Time.
And Jake the dog says, you know, the sucking at something is the first step toward being sort of good at something.
That's true.
And that was just like that.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I mean, you start and you try and you figure it out.
Yeah. Not to get off on a side contingent, but that cartoon. There's a lot of great cartoons out there that I still rewatch now, and that's due for a rewatch. That is one of, in my opinion, one of the greatest shows, cartoons, whatever you want to say. It's for everybody, and just like that, just a quote like that can be measured in real life perfectly. It's so
absolutely
so special.
It's deceptively profound.
Yeah,
and moves me in a million ways. I think about it often.
Oh, that's great. How hard was it to make the pistol? Like, how do you go about that?
Okay, so the pistol I bought.
Okay, you can do that then.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So a lot of this stuff it's copyright infringement, right? Yeah. I mean, these are people who are doing this in their homes. There's not really like commercially. It's not stuff that you're gonna go buy at Spirit.
No. Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff is like, you know, third, fourth, fifth generation. It's a mold of a mold of a mold of a mold, but somewhere down the line, it was cast off an original production used helmet. Right. So these things sort of change hands clandestinely.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's this sort of underground
I was gonna
network.
Say, it's really like the fourth level of Coruscant. You're in some seedy little vendor shop.
It really is.
That's crazy.
And I think part of it is the respect that the community has to protect those makers.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
yeah.
So the pistol I got, I did buy from a member, but it was a resin cast.
Okay.
So basically, that dude sculpted one, and then made a cast of it, and then cast it in resin.
Boom.
I bought it, and then I assembled it, I painted it, I kind of made it how I wanted it to be, a little, tweak to fit in the boot, and how did I, like add a magnet so I could have a magnet in the
Smart
holster to hold it in and stuff like that. But I didn't like personally make that myself.
Okay. I was kind of wondering about that, and I kind of thought that was the idea as well. So, I know some of that stuff can be a little. You're making pieces, but there's probably some things that hey, somebody makes this or you whatever. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean they're out there, and if you if you're interested in looking into that type of stuff, visit those detachment forums for the,
there you go,
for
once
the
again.
costumes that you're interested in.
Yep, that's it. And how many different suits do you just have the two?
Just the two. I got a little too robust for the biker scout. So because of all the soft parts in that costume, so I ended up selling that one. But the only one I still have is the tie pilot costume.
Okay, cool.
Which and it just kind of was coincidence that they were both they have armor to them, but they're primarily soft costumes.
Yeah, it's more like a
jumpsuit
flight. Yeah, like a flight suit, like you would think. It's really just this, and probably some other small pieces here or there, right? If I off the top of my head, but still looks cool though because the helmets are gnarly. Either way.
That's the big show.
Yeah, that's
right
yep. So cool. So cool. Of the two, would you say then the Scout was the hardest to build?
No, honestly, I think the tie was a little harder. The belt for the Biker Scout was a little complicated because it's got a lot of components to it. There's plastic, and then there's nylon webbing.
Okay.
And then there's those boxes that hang down.
That's right. The ones on the side there.
And straps involved in that, and the thermal detonator that hooks onto the back of it.
Beep.
So that was really complicated. But the tie pilot. The chest box part that the hoses hook into, that was particularly challenging. Because there's different makers build theirs different ways, and then how do you attach it to the chest armor? Some people like Velcro it. I didn't really care for that concept. Some people have like bolts that go through the chest armor and wing nuts, and I didn't really care for that. I came up with this kind of probably over-engineered it a little bit, but I used like flush mount mirror clips, like if you're going to hang a bathroom mirror. And so you have like a hook that kind of goes like that, right? And so that was on the chest armor.
That's pretty clever.
The box will slide down, and clip in, and then I had magnets inside the chest armor and a little plate here. And so I'd like slide it down and clip it on, and then it wasn't going anywhere.
That's pretty cool.
And then I was able to have that inside of that open for a little amplifier, so you have a little speaker in there, and you get the whole, whatever, shatter, which just people are already freaking out when they see you, and then you're like,
you're talking like, I know, right? I still because you're telling me this, and you can see I'm lighting up too when you're saying it. Like I would get excited still because we were just at Disney, and we saw some of the the stormtroopers from like the First Order come out, and they're doing it too. And as soon as I start hearing them talk, that's the part. Like at this point, I've seen enough of 501st and everything to still be excited about that. But when you hear it, that's a whole other piece to it. That's a whole other element. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Funny. That's funny. I appreciate getting me excited like that. What has been your favorite moment trooping? Do you have one, or maybe even a favorite charity event, or whatever it looks like? Is there one that you're just like, man, I love that one, or that was memorable, or maybe there's even an annual event?
I mean, I'd have to throw out a few. I think for sure. my first time doing the Tigers game was huge.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
We got to go walk out on the field at Comerica Park.
Yeah, that'd be pretty tough.
And it was just like and the music's like if you're in that suit and the music is playing, like it just blows your mind. Yeah, I mean, it just elevates it. As a fan, right? As a huge fan.
Yeah.
So I love doing the Tigers games. A couple things I'll never forget, and I mean it's hard to say it's my favorite, but it'll make sense when I tell you. We have a really large group out in Grand Rapids, a bunch of really great people, and they have like a standing monthly visit to the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. And very early on, I went out there, and I think it was like 5 or 6 of us. It was like it was Chewy, it was John, myself and my biker scout, another biker scout, stormtrooper, regular. Oh, and we had R2. One of our R2 droid builders.
That's awesome,
there. Yeah. And so we just go floor to floor, and the kids who were well enough to come out and see us would all kind of come out. It's sort of like a tower. It's like a cylindrical building. So like the lobby or like sort of waiting rooms of each floor were kind of round, and then the wings would go around them. And the kids who were well enough would come out and see us in the lobby. But there were kids who couldn't come out of their rooms, right? Because they were, for whatever reason, they immunocompromised or hooked up to stuff or whatever. So when that was done, we would still make a pass through the actual patient rooms, and there's a kid in the room standing at a glass door, with his hand on the glass, and we're all just kind of standing out across from him, outside, waving and thumbs up, and you're kind of like, it's one of those moments where you're like, I'm really glad I have a helmet on, right? Because I'm like weeping,
right, absolutely.
And so I mean that was incredibly powerful, and even more so after the fact, online I saw the parents posted a picture from in the room looking out at us. Yeah. So the kid was just kind of standing beside the door, and we're all outside.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, it's such a small thing, right? All we did was like walk by and wave, but I mean, it made that kid's night.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, that was kind of pinged me how it's like it's bigger than what it feels like.
Yeah, that's how you know,
right?
Yeah.
I organized some events for Bay County Library System a few years ago. We did Star Wars, like I did all 4, like every weekend, like for 4 weekends, all the library branches.
That's awesome.
And they set up all these crazy little, Death Star, and like Nerf gun stuff, and like we just sit around and took pictures with kids.
That's
and stuff.
Cute,
but I mean, it's never not fun,
right?
It's never not fun. Yeah. So I mean, those are some that stick.
That's
out
great. Yeah. I don't know. First of all, we love libraries around here. We're big fans of libraries.
Heck yeah.
First, big fans of libraries. Yep. Yes. But no, that's one of the things that I personally love about 501st, just generally anyways. Like, yeah, sure, I was able to pull them for this event, and I see you guys at Comic-Cons, going to Novi for on and off for 15 some years, whatever. And I love going to the table down there and seeing everybody. I know Kat I know is always, she's all over, right? She's nonstop. I feel she's going to everything, but it's the way that you see how people react, kid, whether it's that kind of scenario where you're in like a kid's hospital, or just even like even adults like see you guys kidded up like that, and just everybody just freaks out over it. It's definitely something special and unique. So
100%.
So to kind of swerve necessarily maybe from that, what what initially got you into Star Wars? I know it seems like, not to like open up like this Pandora's box, I suppose, but was it, you know, since you were a kid, basically you saw, like, I know for me, like I can say, I remember seeing A New Hope, but it was, and back then I think it was still Star Wars, even when I first saw it on VCR tape. But I know when I saw it was Empire that did it for me. That was the hook for me. And I can trace that timeline to a VHS, you know, when it was on TV for the first time. That was the big deal while we recorded it, actually. So, but what was it for you? What was it, just this realization, or was that one time just you were hooked instantly, or did it take time?
I mean, the inciting incident, I don't know if I even know. I was born in 79.
Yeah. Same.
So, you know, Star Wars is a little bit older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And then Empire was
84?
No.
Oh, that's right. No,
80,
that's
80 or 81.
Yeah, that's right. It was what.
And Jedi was 83.
Yeah, you're right. Your Jedi was 83.
80. No, Jedi was 84.
Yeah.
But
okay, maybe.
The first one I first saw in the theater was Return of the Jedi at the State Theater.
Okay. Little as a kid.
As a kid.
Okay.
Yep.
So you got to go see that like a 5 or 6 year old.
Yep.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I was 5. I had seen Star Wars probably on HBO, or it was before it was just like on regular TV, because that used to take forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the day.
Yeah,
so it was probably like HBO. I saw Star Wars or Jedi, but I still have like old photos of, I mean, like, you know, I'm 3 years old, so that would have been, you know, 81, 82.
Yeah.
In a Darth Vader t-shirt with the X-Wing and an R2-D2 birthday
wow,
cake.
crazy like that even. Okay.
So I mean, it must have been, I mean, I was the right age at the right time and had the opportunity to see it.
Yeah.
And that was, everybody was just obsessed with it. It was everything, you know. My buddy Seth, who I was friends with in preschool and still am friends with to this day, his birthday's March 9th, my birthday's March 15th. We have this eternal text message thread of just, happy birthday, you old bastard. Happy birthday, you old bastard.
Right.
You old bastard, you know. But a great friend, and I, you know, again, I've known him longer than I haven't, right? Awesome. But we used to play Star Wars in preschool. At our preschool had this like gutted out. You remember like the old TVs that like were like in furniture cabinets?
Yeah. If you take the monitor out, you say so. Okay,
so
or that screen.
It was just the box,
the shell, right?
And we would sit in that, and that was the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
My only complaint about all of the times that I ever played Star Wars with anybody,
hyperdrive. Just kidding.
No, I always wanted to be Han Solo, but I couldn't because I had blonde hair.
Oh shit! Did you get
so
to be farm? You were farm. You're a farm boy.
I had to be farm boy Luke. And I was
great.
Like, Luke's whiny. I knew Luke was whiny when I was a little kid.
Right.
Biggs was right.
Yeah. I see my power converters.
I'm never gonna get out of here.
Right.
Han Solo was badass.
Yeah, right.
Who doesn't want to be Han Solo?
Right.
But no, I mean, we that was it, man. I mean, it just seared itself into my imagination. It set me on a course.
And there it is.
Still love it today.
Yeah, right on. I do notice though, for being somebody in the Great Lakes Garrison, the Imperial, as again, myself, and you can see a lot of my stuff out there. Most of my stuff out there is Imperial. But I did notice that you have a filthy rebel tattoo.
I do. I do.
Point that out.
It was my first tattoo. I was a young, impressionable. No, honestly, this exact symbol version was from the center of the first edition of the Star Wars Trivial Pursuit game board.
That's pretty great.
And when I again, first tattoo, I took it and I wanted the Imperial cog, and I was talked out of it by that artist. Well, like, you know, there's really these little small spaces, and over time it's gonna blah blah blah. Well, in hindsight, he just didn't want to do it.
He didn't want to do
it.
Man.
Well, so now I'm stuck with this.
Yeah, okay. I just want to point that out. I did want to point that out. Let me ask this. So how is your feelings now? Because, again, another Pandora's box, and, you know, we don't have to Pandora box it, but there's a lot. I feel like the sequel trilogy has kind of fractured the fans. I don't, again, and I'm somebody who, I'm not overly a fan. I've got not a lot I really like about it. Honestly, I felt Force Awakens was a good start, even though it was kind of like a tribute to all three in one. That was fine. I think we were on a good path. But I definitely think there was a lot of things that got lost in translation. I digress. Everybody hears me talk about that constantly. But it's really turned the Star Wars fandom into a pretty much a line, and it's a lot of toxicity, and that's why I try to stay out of it. But I digress. How do you feel about Star Wars these days under Disney? Are you somebody who just like, what, I'm just trying to enjoy Star Wars, or do you sometimes go, man, that's a head scratcher?
Well, I got a lot to say about this.
Okay.
I mean, in general, I like Star Wars.
Yeah.
I really, really liked Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a great return to form.
Mm-hmm.
If Evil Dead 2 is Evil Dead 1,
which is
Force
an
Awakens.
Awesome analogy for that. Yeah.
Force Awakens is a new hope. Right?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it is. It is.
For better or worse. The Last Jedi, I walked out of the theater supremely disappointed.
Yeah,
I gut reaction, I hated it.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I still don't like it, but
Yeah.
I understand it more.
I think that's a fair way of looking at it. Yeah.
And I think the biggest miss in the Last Jedi was not letting Princess Leia just float away.
Oh, that's a big one. Yeah, that's definitely one.
That would have been a much more fitting end.
Yeah.
To the quote unquote Space Mary Poppins and all the meanings of her. I mean, like that would have been a profound ending to her character to have been killed by her son.
Yeah.
And a more pivotal point for Kylo Ren's character development, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, he just killed both of his parents,
Yeah.
And it just would have been, then you wouldn't have had the messiness of dealing with Carrie Fisher's death in the last one.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, when she actually passed. Yeah, that's the point.
But I still feel like, a lot of people were like, Luke would never punk out like that. And it was like, Yoda did the same thing, man. Like,
I do think that, and I think Luke was mismanaged overall. And I don't want to make this about me because everybody hears me talk about this. I do subscribe to the fact that the Skywalker bloodline is overly emotional, so it's not without the realm of possibility that he could handle a situation wrong. It's just that he handled it way wrong than a big hero would, in my opinion, would normally do that. If he wants to give away and step away and walk away or whatever, the events leading to that just didn't really add up. And then once finding him, it just I would have rather more of a Obi-Wan or a Yoda, kind of like, he was doing bits, he was sucking titty milk out of something, you know what I mean? There was a lot of there's a good story there, I think, that a lot of us wanted because of the cartoons. We wanted some great Jedi things and stuff like that. I think that stuff would have been better told on a side somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that, or maybe even in a comic book.
Yeah, any of that stuff. And I think that just he was my biggest issue, is that he was kind of mismanaged. And if he's going to show up to do a fight, did it have to really be a fucking hologram? If she was able to pull out Red 5 and fly away with it, why the fuck didn't he do that? That sort of stuff.
Right,
I guess. Anyway, so I digress. But the point is I was just kind of curious on how you felt, and because Last Jedi usually is the pivotal one, and I will say I don't know how you felt about Rise of Skywalker, and it just felt like a big wannabe, even the dagger thing. I'm like, it's not Goonies. It felt so weird, not a place.
Yeah, no, I think at that point I was like, I'm just ready to not hate things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel that way for a lot of media in general, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm sitting in the theater. I'm with my wife. I'm with my kid. I'm eating popcorn, and it's gonna be Star Wars, and the music's gonna happen, and I'm just gonna go for the ride.
Yeah.
And a big part of it with the sequels, and to a lesser extent the prequels, I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm 40. Well, I'm 46 now. You know, I mean, I am older than I was.
Yeah.
And like, I think they just need to stop trying to make everybody happy. Just make the thing. And I think that's why the first season of Mandalorian was amazing. I think that's why Rogue One was amazing. Yeah. I think I love Solo.
And Andor. I love Solo too. Andor was awesome. I'm so excited for this next season.
I haven't watched that yet.
Dude, if you love Rogue One.
Everybody says it's awesome. I watched the first episode.
You love Rogue One.
I do love Rogue One.
Dude, you need this. I'm telling you. This is adult like Star Wars storytelling. That's why Rogue One was so great.
Yeah.
It was dark, you know, and it showed that the rebellion was just as filthy sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And seedy. But man, Andor season 1 is like, and some people talk it's a slow burn and it's this, that, and the other.
I have no problem with slow
I don't that's not when people say that to me, I instantly like that's a wall for me and a red flag. Like, okay, because I'll watch boring anything if there's good storytelling, there's great storytelling.
Absolutely.
I know some people just don't have the attention span, that I get. But man, I'm so excited for Andor. You got to.
I'll have to give it a shot. I mean, like,
promise.
You know, and very much like I said, you know, even like Obi-Wan, I liked it.
It was all right.
I loved. I mean, Vader was brutal in that. Vader was more brutal in that than he was in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like dragging him through fire.
That was awesome.
I mean, it was. We were watching that.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the Disney stuff has been some of the best. Yeah. Some of the Disney TV shows,
yes,
have been some of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars stuff. I mean, and I love weekly drops. I love getting to talk about it.
That's fair. Okay.
You know.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not a huge like binge watcher.
Yeah, I'm a binger. But I get that. I get what you're saying. I'm a binger, but I get that.
You know, I mean, I have friends, you know, at work who will be like, "Did you watch it last night? Oh my god!" You know,
Mm-hmm.
just to get to talk and speculate and yeah, I mean, like, I really enjoyed that, and it gave us something to do too. You know, as a family, like, it's Wednesday. You know, it's 8:00. Come on.
Yeah. Right.
Come on, and we all watch together, and I really love that aspect of it for sure.
Did you watch Ahsoka?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I just fell. There's too much to watch.
I know.
And we started watching like Yellow Jackets.
I know.
You know, which is amazing.
That's why I keep hearing TV is a golden age right now.
Right. Oh,
and it's like I mean, even growing up, or even the last 15 years now of having like Breaking Bad's, Better Call Saul's, and even in the early 2000s, you had Sopranos and stuff like that. Like, there was TV out there that was good. And there's other shows out there people will say, well, this is good. Well, it really wasn't. But I always say now, after the pandemic, like, people sat around and were doing right and had these ideas. Right now, we're in a golden age of television. Of course, we got all the apps out there as well, too. Apple TV is killing it with their TV shows. HBO is still killing it with their TV shows. They'll never stop being amazing. But yeah. Keep hearing Yellow Jackets. There's all this stuff out there to catch. And
you get down on, you ever watch the Righteous Gemstones?
I'm a season behind. It's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
fucking great. Yeah, it's I love Danny McBride.
Yep.
And I was a big Workaholics guy, so I love Adam in that as well too. So yeah, that's somebody actually just said this week, have you watched that yet? I'm like, I'm a season behind, because it keeps getting better.
Yep.
That's what everybody keeps saying. Like, this last couple seasons or this last season or whatever is already awesome. So I'm like, God damn, I gotta get caught up. But yeah. So yeah, no, I get it. Ahsoka's another one. Like, I feel like for me, I think I told you earlier, I'm very protective of those characters. I love it. The show is not perfect. There's a lot of great things. There's some really questionable things. I think these days, they're, like you said, it's almost like they're trying to, I don't know, appease a little bit of I don't know what they're doing, but like, some stuff just comes up as like, just make good Star Wars, right? That's all we really want, I think, at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure. Well, and yeah, I mean, like, to your point, you know, when you're talking about, you know, being a big Rebels fan, and that's what I wanted to say earlier, was my son turned me on to Clone Wars.
Oh, it's so good.
You know, I mean, I think I still lived at home when that came out.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize how old it was.
Yeah, I mean the OG from 2003. They started that other random series. You know the
Tartakovsky,
where there's no
the Samurai Jack looking one,
which is fucking amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's now not canon, or that's not even talked about hardly
No,
anymore.
it's
But
just
but it's so fucking good. Like
Absolutely.
it's really, really good. But yeah, the original Clone Wars started so long ago. At that point, I didn't even really realize it was a thing until mid 2000s, probably around 2008, 2009, or whatever it was. But
yeah, well, and it wasn't too long after that for me. You know, so my son was born in 2010, and so he was probably 4 or so, and once it came out on Netflix, because it was originally on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
when it dropped on Netflix,
yeah, that's where
he was super hot on it, and so I think he still kind of needed me to like turn on the thing, and I started watching it with him, and I was like, holy shit, this show's really good. I was like, this is like Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
I mean, the storytelling really blew me away.
Yeah, because it's so adult. Like the first episode, they're blowing fucking stormtroopers or whoever out of like the side of a ship and killing them and talking about it.
Oh yeah,
I was like, what the fuck's a fucking cartoon? A Star Wars cartoon.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that hooked me into that, and that certainly pulled me right into Rebels, which I thought was some like the most interesting. Like, okay, we knew it was all new, right? I mean, we knew about clone troopers, and we knew about Yoda, and we knew about Jedis, and we knew about all that cool stuff that was in Clone Wars, and I don't say that to diminish it, but Rebels was like 100% new, and 100% new concepts of how to tell a story in the Star Wars universe, and to do it in an animated way that was still had an appeal and enough respect for the lore for the OG fans, but enough pop and cute weirdness and Chopper doing whatever for the kids.
Probably one of my favorite characters now.
I mean, it's just brilliant, and that's what's his name? Filoni, yeah. Cowboy.
Yeah, yep, that's right. The
Wolf.
Yeah, exactly. I always call him the prodigal son. Lucas's prodigal son. Rebels is I always call of all the stuff to me that feels like the most heart of what Star Wars was related to the OT is Rebels is the one that encompasses all of that, and it starts off a little shaky. The first season, you got the Inquisitors doing the only complaint I have is the dumb like lightsaber flying thing,
like the lightsaber
helicopter. I mean, I get it, it's a kid's show and it starts out kind of slow, and you always start out with these new characters that are dumb and kind of goofy like Ezra, but then all of a sudden halfway even through the first season, or just even 10 episodes in, it grabs wings fast.
Absolutely.
And starts going like this, and to the point where like we were watching that episodically as well, and like Rohit and my buddy Draston, we would be like circle texting each other when the new episodes would drop for that. Be like, you watched it tonight? Yeah, holy shit, yeah, because it was on Disney XD. We're like, oh, we got 7 minutes till Disney XD it drops, so that's definitely, and I guess I think my problem is my expectation because of that show, even though it's animated, sits pretty high what they can do and how they can grab that heart, and I always feel like that's partly on me is because I've set that expectation, so a lot of things have a hard time hitting that. But no, I'm glad that you're also a fan of the Rebels as well
for
too.
Sure. And I mean, real quickly, I mean, like when they got probably one of my favorite parts of that is when they get talking to the Bendu and like the nature. I mean, like
the whole concept
it's like
of that.
Metaphysical. I mean, it's like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that concept, all of that.
And I mean, certainly there's people who are like, just stab some stormtroopers, right? And I'm like, this thing is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it was.
Yeah.
Great world building. And how do you continue to build upon this world? But they do. They manage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those rare things that's exciting to say. Like, how often would we have ever figured when we were kids growing up watching a cartoon saying, this is going to be pulled into a live action someday? Because I mean, they would make terrible movies based off franchises, and those are, they're usually pretty bad. But like, for all intents and purposes, something like Ahsoka excuse me, or even like seeing Cad Bane live action in Book of Boba Fett. It's like, this is nuts. These characters were animated and now they're given real life and stuff like that. And yeah, it's nuts. But
100%.
Speaking of your son, so some of my favorite stories, I don't know if you know this, when we talk, and even your wife brought him up a little bit as well too, is about your son, Bob, right?
Yep.
Bob. Literally your clone. I saw a picture of him the other day. I want to point that out. I don't know how you figured that out, if you know some Kaminoans or something, but do you get that? I'm sure you get that a lot, right?
There's no denying that guy. For sure. Not that I would ever want to.
Right. No, but he just sounds like this. I mean, literally, again, a mini you. Like, he sounds highly intelligent, super nerdy about everything. Even down to, if I correctly, I think I saw a certain band tee he was wearing, or that he's got potentially as well. But he's also clearly a big Star Wars fan. But I've heard that the student has become the teacher because he had been tapped for trivia nights at times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How does that work out?
Absolutely. No, we had. Geez, even when he was a little guy, great bar restaurant around the corner from our old house, Coonan's Irish Hub in Bay City. Wonderful place, wonderful people, great food. Walking distance from our old place. They have trivia every Monday night, hosted by an awesome guy named Randy. And they had, I think we played kind of regularly when we lived right around the corner. But they, like, if you won the night, you got to pick a category for the next week.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
One of the teams that played picked Star Wars, so we're all hyped up about this. Just a category. I'm talking like 6 questions, right? Through a night. So he came and he put on his little Jango. He had a Jango Fett costume. And we marched down there, and he killed it. He did great. We played. So, oh my God, there's 3. So there's 3 Bob Star Wars trivia things. Him and I both went. Just him and I to Tavern 101 in Bay City. They had a Star Wars trivia night, and it was just me and him. We were the team together. And we got dinner and we're answering questions, and I'm like, he's got a little cell phone, he's a little teenager, but so I'm like, bud, you got to put your phone on the table, like, during the round, like, those are the rules. Like, we ain't cheating. We know we don't need to cheat.
You ain't getting busted for nothing, right?
And we lost by 1 point. Or we tied. I can't remember the exact thing. It was a couple years ago. But one of the other teams was, I think, accused us of cheating. Long story short, we didn't win the night. We got every single question right. And it might have been like, how many of these things can you name?
Yeah.
When you get a point for each one.
Yeah.
And this other team had like 1 more than us. But the trivia host was like, I can't believe it. Like, you guys just killed it. I loved watching you guys together. So they bought our dinner. Like, the trivia host bought our dinner for us. And just said it was so cool to see you guys play together. So that was super, super
Even
fun.
after you got accused by cheating.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, yeah, we were a little pissed about that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But all of that came from, even when he was little. We just watched a video the other day of playing that Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, right?
Yeah.
That very game that this tattoo is from, and we have a video of playing with him. He must have been 3 or 4, and just that little kid voice, like, he doesn't sound like that, and now he's all like, whatever.
right. Yeah, the evolution.
But it was just adorable. That's just more reminiscing for me, but he was answering,
That's crazy.
Like, Duchess Satine was the answer. It was like, who was Obi-Wan Kenobi's love interest or whatever, and he knew that.
I'm glad to hear a question like that was even asked, for one. Like, crazy.
Yeah. Like,
he knew that. Yeah.
At 3 or 4, he knew the answer.
Clone Wars, what's up?
Yeah, he's got the knowledge too. So,
Yeah.
but we nearly won, just the two of us, and we got a free dinner.
Why not? Right? Talk about awesome. That's great. Yeah, I do enjoy the stories that usually, because I swear there's a lot of times when we get a chance to have some time to talk or back and forth, whatever. It seems like there's a Bob story that comes up, or when you were active on Facebook, there'd always be a random Bob story, and I'd always just be like, "This kid, man, like this kid, like this is the guy." So I love it.
He is, yeah, he's crackerjack, man. He's really cool. That's, I mean, the coolest thing is really now just kind of seeing him become his own,
Yeah.
coming into his own person.
Right.
Not that he never wasn't, but he always hated like being shown. Like whatever he's into, he wanted to kind of like discover it himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even like, when he was really little, I mean, like Ninja Turtle, like he's playing with my old toys. So he's playing with Ninja Turtles, playing with Star Wars. You're going to get a little bit of that. But once he got a little bit older and got to have like, his own opinion, it was, he wasn't interested in, no, I don't want to watch that movie, And then eventually he'd come around to it anyway. And I'm
Right.
like, I tried to show you that like 5 years ago.
Right. You want nothing to do with it. It's funny how that works too. It's funny. So I got a question, really random question, kind of off topic as well too. Can you explain to me, if possible, what is a flub?
A flub.
Yeah, what are a flub, and what does it mean if something's got to be put on the list? What's the list?
Oh God. So she told me I didn't say anything embarrassing. So I assume the list is, do you know some of the list items?
I don't know that. I just know about the list, and I know about flubs that somehow might be in conjunction to the list. That was the word that was used, I guess. But as far as knowledge of what's on the list, not necessarily. So I figured I'd let you explain.
All right.
That.
Well, so basically, I always have taken great offense to the concept of like the bumbling sitcom dad, right?
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, like think about like, oh, Deborah, I don't know how to wrap a Christmas present, or Tim Allen doing something stupid.
I was just gonna say
whatever.
Tim Allen's a great example of that. Yeah.
And I always feel like that's such a trope and a stereotype.
Right. Very sitcom-y.
And I have, unfortunately, in my soon to be 16 years of marriage, 15 years of fatherhood, found myself doing things that probably would have fit right into a home improvement situation. And one that's probably the dumbest on its face. Our old house, we had a frame pool. Like one of those, like, I get Walmart, and they had like it was a big, it was like 15 feet across or whatever. And we had these hanging flower baskets like off of our patio door. And I was like mowing the lawn, I was doing some stuff, and we had those little like, squirt gun things.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, I want one of those flowers. So like pool water, squirt it in the flowers. Pool water, squirt it in the flowers. And my wife comes out and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, I'm trying to wonder why these goddamn plants are dying and you're spraying fucking chlorine
right. Chemicals.
And she's like, you work in a chemical plant. Like, why would you not even?
That's awesome.
And I was like, I don't know. That's my Tim Allen.
That's the big one.
Tim Allen moment. That one.
That's great. That's a good one. That's a real good one.
I peed my pants driving home in the middle of a snowstorm. That just is gonna happen though. I mean, I had to go real bad. I spun out on going to Frankenmuth.
Yeah, whatever that one is.
13.
Yeah, 13. One of them. 15. 13,
Way out,
17.
kind of like out by Munger.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
it was hella snowstorm. I was like, I had to go so bad. I mean, I was like, just
Yeah.
punching myself, like,
Don't go.
almost home, almost home, almost home. And I hit a spot, and I started to spin, and I was like, as soon as that happened, I just
As soon as
started,
the
started to
force.
let it go.
Yep.
And then it was like, and fortunately, nothing I came around, I righted myself, and I was able to keep going. But I was like, I'm just gonna finish now. Like, why stop? I'm already pissing my pants in my car.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. At that point.
let's just relieve ourselves and call it a day. So that's so my son keeps a list of these things, and there's certainly a few more. But I don't want this all to be about dumb shit that I've done.
I really wanted to hear. I wanted to hear some examples of the list. I did hear he is the keeper of the list.
Yes, and that is often spoken thing. Like, if I do something that maybe could be on the list, I'm like, don't put that on.
Don't put it on the list. Right. Awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thank you.
He revels in it. He revels.
Oh, I can imagine it's probably gold for him. That's going to be something he's going to have for all his life. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So I want to spin, as I always try to spin here. And I know that some of our conversations end up being about music. You even kind of talked about it earlier about how, you fire off videos, say, hey, check this out, or whatever it might be. And I think I've probably done that too. But I think it's fair to say that, and I don't know whether, not trying to equate to Star Wars, but music is pretty big piece of you, like who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Say it's a fair thing, right? So, you play guitar.
I do. Yeah.
All right. What kind of guitar do you play? Do you play butt bass? You play, really anything?
6-string electric, acoustic.
Okay.
I can play bass badly. I can play like the beginning of 46 and 2 on bass. I play some things on bass.
Sure.
I get the concept. I can play banjo a little bit, ukulele.
That's fucking cool.
Pretty much anything.
Okay.
Stringed.
Okay.
To a certain extent. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
But my main instrument, I play like a electric or acoustic 6-string guitar.
How many guitars do you have?
Currently just 2.
Okay.
I have a small bodied, what they call auditorium body, which is when you think about an acoustic guitar, you think about the great big Johnny Cash. That's called a dreadnought. Usually, that body style is kind of like the stereotypical mental picture. The one I have is a Fender acoustic. It's an auditorium body, so it's like just a little bit smaller.
Okay.
Just really comfortable, fun to play.
Sure.
Sits on a stand behind a recliner, and I can just grab it and pick it up and play it. And last Father's Day-ish, last June, I bought a new solid body electric.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking about. I remember that being a thing. So.
Yeah, and I think I sent you a picture of it. There was me and the poor gal that worked at Guitar Center. Mm-hmm. I was like, will you hold it up and take a picture with me? And she was a sweetheart about it. But it was, I just got it in my head. I wanted a new electric because I hadn't had one in a long time. I've had many over the years that have sold or smashed or have been stolen or whatever.
The usual tales of having a musical background, I feel like. Okay.
But I kind of got an itch to get back into it, so I bought this Gretsch. It's just a very basic solid body Gretsch electric guitar. Actually kind of their budget beginner, but I saw a picture of it online and it was very not what I would have typically been interested in guitar-wise in terms of the pickups and the configuration of it, but something about it just spoke to me, and I went to Guitar Center, and the guy came, anything I can help you with, and I said, it's right there, I want that, and I just walked over to the wall, grabbed it, and they were like, I almost did like the Ron Swanson, you know, they were like, can I get him? Like, I know more than you.
Right. When he's walking to the hardware store.
And I mean, and they're wonderful there. But I mean, I worked at a music store for 12, at a guitar store, repaired guitars for, you know, a dozen years. I've been playing for 30 some years. I just knew what I wanted, and I was like, go help somebody else. I'm gonna get this one.
I don't need your help. Right.
So yeah, I've been loving playing that. I started playing weekly with a buddy that I used to be in a band with when we were just out of high school.
Yeah.
Writing music. I mean, it's just basement stuff right now, but
Sure.
I mean, it's something that we, really every Thursday. But I mean, like, we adjust if we have to.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's certainly penciled in every week, and we've been sticking to it for, probably getting on a year.
Good.
Maybe like 8 months or so. We started jamming with another bud, a mutual friend who is playing bass, and I don't know what's gonna do. I mean, I've been in bands since I was in high school, on and on. I haven't in the last several years, but I mean, like, working bands that played and traveled and did all that stuff, and that's a lot. It's a lot to do, and it's certainly hard to do with a little kid and still even a teenager. And at the time, when I kind of hung it up, I had the boy was really young. I was doing a shift work job, and it was like, I can't just like go to Peoria Friday night,
Right.
and drink so much that my teeth hurt the next morning,
Right,
and try to come home, So I just kind
It's
of
all part of it.
reprioritized and hung it up for a while, but it's been fun to get back into it and start kind of writing some stuff.
Gotta have that creative outlet, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Drives me nuts if you don't, or drives whoever.
Yeah.
For me, that's it's almost like a scratching in my head.
Yep.
Like if you don't have some sort of something, whether you draw, whether you play music, write music,
Yeah, absolutely.
anything, so you were in a band in high school.
Yes.
Okay. How many bands have you been in? Do you know?
So the first band I was in was sort of like 10th, 11th grade ish, and it was very, very, very Pearl Jam.
That's what I was wondering.
Influence.
Was it gonna say like a grungy kind of? Because I know
much.
being the same age, I kind
we're
of
talking
assume.
like 94, 95,
Right.
96, right?
So you're even flowing, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So that band was called Graham Pack, and it was a bunch of buds. That a lot of the guys I'm still friends with, still chat with regularly. That spun off into a band called Prol. That was actually my buddy Mike, who I play with today, was a member of that band. We did that for several years, and then I was in a band called Born for easily a dozen years, and that was probably our most like really serious endeavor.
Is that the one where you travel and did okay? That sort
we
of
were
stuff?
doing little mini tours. We were opening up for national acts, doing stuff like that. Had some really cool opportunities, played some really cool shows, met a lot of great people, had a lot of fun.
Right on.
And they still play. They still play around as a 3-piece. They're sort of fractured a little bit. The singer lives out east, but will still kind of come home and
Out east and like the thumb, or are we talking?
like Philly?
Okay, that's quite east. Okay. Out past the Misty Mountains.
They do that. It's a thing that White's has every year outside, like crispy music festival.
Yeah, whatever it is,
like
it's cool. Whitefoot still does that fun stuff.
Yeah, so I'm like they at least play that. I think they played out at the Vault out here in Saginaw,
Which is getting more and more popular now. By the way,
it's supposed to be a great venue.
It's a great. I've been there for wrestling events. That's awesome. For music events, I'm sure it's awesome too. They got a great balcony. It's like nice in there.
That's rad.
It is pretty crazy.
We were supposed to go see Helmet there I think it was like almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
They canceled it.
Yeah. Because actually, that was one of the first ones I knew about the Vault. Because Helmet's not like a huge band, but they've got a couple songs. I'm like, I'd go pay $10 to go see Helmet and
Hell
Saginaw. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Why not for a couple of tall boys? So, yeah, that's cool. So, what kind of music was that last band? There?
You know, I mean, it's always hard to, or you feel pretentious trying to describe it.
That's fair.
I mean,
yeah.
you know,
Like, how do you categorize myself?
I
Yeah.
mean, I could say that like certain bands that influenced me, certainly Tool, Deftones. There's an amazing band called Dredge. Hum. I mean, a lot of like prog, but not,
Okay.
you know, emo, but not metal, but not.
Okay. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's just. I mean, it was, you know, heavy but melodic,
Yeah.
but dynamic. Mike's an amazing singer. So he has a great, you know, like baritone, real strong voice. And I think we just tried to make it. We tried to make it fun for us to play.
Yeah, if you're gonna be doing things like that, it's got to be enjoyable.
And
right.
you know, if people like it, cool. If they don't, well, we're still gonna be up there for 30 or 45 minutes.
Yeah, still gonna be drinking beer too.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, I think like maybe like Perfect Circle more so than Tool. It was you know, that sort of vibe.
Because if people know, there is definitely a distinct difference.
Oh,
let's be honest.
Clearly.
Let's be honest with ourselves. There's a lot of mess with Tool right now again too. You see on that?
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ. How long is that gonna mean we'll get another? Because they were talking about getting a Tool album out. Now it's gonna fuck that up, right?
Oh yeah.
God, you seen Tool live?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't seen Perfect Circle live, but I've seen Tool.
Seen Perfect Circle twice.
Okay.
I've seen Tool
preference
2 or 3. Perfect Circle.
Okay.
I love Tool, but it's, I mean, God, they can be kind of boring live. I mean, when you just get into this, I mean, like Lollapalooza, like Anima days, amazing.
Yeah.
Like when you got to like Lateralis, like that, some of the later stuff, and it would just be this like almost this jam band, you know, just droning.
Yeah, I get it.
For like 15 minutes. You know?
I get it. Yeah, I love it. I can't.
And I'm not even like play sober.
Right.
You know,
right.
I'm just like
same. I mean, I love sober.
Absolutely.
But I'm not even like that either. I really 10,000 Days was like, I felt like one of those evolutions of a band that leaned into the fact they were getting older, because it still sounded and reminded me of old stuff, but it was also like very like they've evolved or whatever, you know.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I always like watching bands that kind of do that. But anyways, I digress. Perfect Circle has still eluded me. I still haven't seen them live, but I really love Maynard. Like, I don't know what it is, like just one of those guys that just
I mean, he's an incredibly talented singer. He's an incredibly talented lyricist. He's very thoughtful, very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah,
just as a person, you know,
big into culinary and like food truck stuff now. Crazy shit.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I love him, and I'm grateful that I got to see him. You know, and even then, they're all like, I should be so lucky to complain about listening to Danny Carey play drums for too long.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
First world problems. You know?
Right. That's funny. And you know who I've I know you're also a fan of. Why did the name just escaped me out of nowhere? Because they were recently with. I saw him with Ghost here at the Dow. Mastodon reminds me kind of them because they're very melodic and almost very like. They kind of tell a story, but it's like you can't tell where a song begins and ends sometimes. Like, and that's what I found, because that was one of the first times I really seriously took a listen to them, because I know you kind of like them as well.
Oh yeah.
Because I was supposed to see them years ago, if I remember correctly, and I think that somebody was sick and they had to bounce out. It's because they've been around long. I didn't realize they were around as long. As they had been.
Like 25.
Yeah, because this was at like a Mayhem Fest or something. I was supposed to see them. And when I saw them, I was like, oh shit! Like this is like. like that. They're more like a Tool. I'm like, well, which makes again sense because why you'd like them as well too. So, but I don't know. The last time I saw Tool, I think it was actually at DTE. And anytime I go to DTE now, or excuse me, Pine Knob. Why am I even saying DT? What a piece of shit!
It's back.
Yeah, I know, and I'm still trying to bow my knee to the corporate bullshit. But you know, when I saw them there, you know, at this point at Pine Knob, I always make sure because I'm too old for grass seating, and the price is great. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But I'd rather pay at this point a few more cheddar cheeses to like sit for a grandpa knee. And after I got hit with sod years ago, I said I'm not doing this shit anymore.
Yep. No, I hear you.
I did see pumpkins, of course, in Manson on the grass, but it is what it is. But Tools is something special. I was fortunate enough to be asked if I wanted to go, picked up a ticket, and got to see them. And it was like literally like 20 some rows. I felt like.
Oh, nice.
And it was like. I mean, I should have been probably on some LSD or something, but it was definitely very just, like you said, it was just very melodic like that. So
absolutely.
But yeah, I still haven't seen Perfect Circle. I still want to see Perfect Circle. And you did kind of mention some bands though. What is as far as like the music of the bands that you like, are the ones you listed like Deftones, and do you have like a top 3 or top 5? You're like, these are like my list, or is it hard for you to kind of like do that and kind of bring it in and say these are my top 3 or 5 bands of like me?
Oh, you know, I'll always say like if you want a list, I pretty much have to say that like Pearl Jam is my favorite band, so that's like above number one.
Okay,
I'm not even gonna.
They're not there. That is the whole. You know, that is the holy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is very much a band that. You know, I right place, right time, just like Star Wars when I was younger. Mm-hmm. That's really special to me. That I've had the good fortune to see him, you know, a dozen times. And yeah, for whatever reason, they connected with me when 10 came out, and weird. I mean, like 10 is like. The album is probably my least favorite Pearl Jam album.
I would say the exact same thing, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, they're just really special to me. So they're omnipresent, right? Mm-hmm. They're above number one. From there, I'm not gonna rank, but I'm just gonna give you a mishmash.
Yeah.
And depending on the day and my mood, you could slot any of this in anywhere.
I totally get that as well too. Music, I had a feeling you were gonna be like this because I know music's again quite important to you. So
absolutely
makes sense.
I love Coheed and Cambria.
Okay.
I love Mastodon. I love Stephen Wilson Jr., this amazing country artist that well, sort of ish, but that's a whole other discussion. I thought long and hard about what shirt I wanted to wear today, and I wore Stephen Wilson Jr.
Perfect.
shirt. My sister Annie turned me on to him, not last December, but the December before, and it's been a really incredible experience following him, watching him come up.
Okay.
We've got to see him a few times.
Nice.
Certainly Smashing Pumpkins. I know we talked a lot about Pumpkins.
Yep.
I love Sunny Day Real Estate. I love Jawbox. I love Public Enemy.
Okay. Hell yeah.
I love
Chuck
Ice
D.
Cube.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's just what's
We're swirling right now.
Popping off my top.
Fair enough. No, I like that. You got some good stuff in there too, outside of just normal band, traditional band. I don't know. I know some people look at rap differently, but I don't. I love rap. So awesome. That's good because I actually did want to bring up Pumpkins. You knew I was probably going to bring up Pumpkins a little bit as well, because I think if I remember correctly now too, that's the shirt I think I saw Bob was wearing a Pumpkins. He's a big Pumpkins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
absolutely.
That was one of the biggest revelations that I had with you, a profound one in the last couple of years was, I've got a few friends that are into Smashing Pumpkins, but I don't have many people that I know that look at Pumpkins from like I don't even know what scope to even explain that on. Because I felt like our conversation, because if I remember correctly, we started doing voice messages because it got really deep, real thick.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to go too crazy deep and thick on it right now, and I'm going to propose something to you later. But how do you classify? Can you classify pumpkins? I've got one thing that I kind of say about pumpkins. I've heard recently some people call them kind of folk even, which I thought was pretty unique, like indie folk pop, which was okay. That's an interesting way to put it, because you guys got to remember, if you didn't grow up in the 90s, the decade to beginning and end was weird for music, because it evolved. You know, you started out with the grunge, and then like you got to the mid, and even during while grunge is going on, you had like really good like hip hop, R&B. Then middle 2000s, like you still had the grunge, but it was evolving more into like a pop sense. And then you had like all of a sudden gangster rap and stuff like that hit out, and then rap started getting big and huge. And then in the midst of all that, you had one of my favorite all-time genres, R&B was really huge during the 90s. And by the time you ended, it was like this like Limp Bizkit metal rap, and like more money, more problems. So it was an interesting decade of music from start to end. And 9 chances out of 10, if we grew up in that era, we probably liked a lot of either the Public Enemies, definitely the Ice Cubes, you know, all this different stuff. So the question for you, full circle, a perfect circle, is how do you classify and
Chickadee.
there we go.
Chickadee.
Appreciate you guys jumping on that as fast. So let's back it up, because he was saying some amazing, profound stuff that's going to change everybody's
Oh God!
everybody's
Don't
life
build it
here.
up like that.
So if you had heard, we did say that Siamese Dream, Smashing Pumpkins album, perfect 100%. So I think that was pretty much the big piece, and then it looks like I think I have to really kind of monitor that. I didn't realize I had to watch that.
Yeah, what I was getting at was your question was how would I describe them, and my thought was just that I think they really embodied the sound, the idea, the outward facing concept of alternative rock. Like if you think about that was the label, right? I mean, Pearl Jam was alternative, Nirvana was alternative. Like if you were going to lump everything together and not bisect it into grunge or whatever core or whatever.
That's true. That I'm glad you said, because I always ended up more of the grunge thing, but you're right. It technically would have been alternative rock.
You know, and there was, I mean, like you could say at a blush, right? Like what would my parents have called it at that time? They would have called all of that alternative. Soul Asylum, Blind Melon,
Collective Soul,
this
soul, that soul,
Punk.
Jars of Clay.
Yeah, but I think that like just that in that window of time, that sort of that time where Siamese came out, I think they would have been like the flagship band to say alternative rock.
Okay.
Right. So if I had to put a label on them, I would put that. And I know that's probably broad, but I also get a little squirrely about dicing stuff up to
I get it.
a million different
get
like, well, is that black metal or is that deathcore or is that
right.
grind widget or what? I don't even know. Like, it's like it's heavy or it's rock or it's
That's
alternative. I've cooled on a little bit of like that. Dissecting things to that level in my old age.
Okay, that's fair. For me, I at this point I say to them, and this is more of a me thing, but I do like how you put that. And like I said, when I read that somebody said they were like this indie folk pop rock kind of thing, I'm like, it's an interesting way of looking at it because I can see the folkiness. I can see the indiness of it. But what's also interesting I always feel about Pumpkins is his appreciation, of course, for like orchestra music, because if I remember correctly, they're doing something right now soon too.
Yep.
In Chicago.
Symphony.
Yep, because he's out of that. That's where his area. There's where he's originally from. That area, they're doing, which makes sense to me because especially when you think of like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness and how many songs on there were very like orchestral, and he has a deep deeper layer of appreciation for like music in that sense. But I always say that they were my emo music. That was
absolutely.
That was my outlet for, and it's funny because like the other emo music that I'm a big fan of from that era that I call emo to me is like Nine Inch Nails. Even Manson in some ways was kind of like my emo music. And then at some point Tupac became something that was like an emo music for me because his anger channeled my youthful anger, right? So
sure.
But something about Pumpkins always resonated and hit different to the point where like after all this time, you got great bands out there, like if you do or don't love them, whatever. Green Day has never changed who they are or their sound one single fucking bit. And if anything, maybe the only thing that's changed is that they're just immensely popular and pack everywhere they're at. You don't have to like their music. You don't have to like even where they stand on politics or whatever it is, but they have always been the same. And I talked earlier about how I like to see music evolve, and I enjoy seeing that in bands, but sometimes things don't need to. I think Green Day is a good example of that for me. Whereas Smashing Pumpkins is kind of the same way as well. Like, what album was it? The album that came out last year that had the 3 parts that was like mostly. It was a very very symphonic or.
I do not know the name of it.
I can't think of the name off the top of my head. And and I've sat down here for hours.
My son will be like, what?
Right.
He was all about it. But I know what you're talking about. And I can't think of the name of it.
And that's pretty amazing because like that makes sense to me. Like, of course, like after all these years, that's the kind of music that he would put out or they would put out as well. And that's what I like about Pumpkins is that Pumpkins always still like even when they put out a new single. That one last single that came out last year, I fucking love that song. That din 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 din. I'm like, God damn, that's fucking gnarly. Like I got right into that, So, but some bands I can't go back and listen to. But Pumpkins is somebody who I feel like at any given time, I'm just gonna be like, I feel like listening to a Pumpkins album right now, and it's gonna just either channel me backwards and be a time machine, or just I'm gonna sit there and be like, God damn, and just praise him again.
Well, and that was, I think I told you the story about, I was cutting the grass and I throw in earbuds and I listen to some random thing. I have a beer, I listen to something and I mow the lawn. And when I was still online, I'd always post that like today's lawn mowing was brought to you by Incubus and
a beer. Yeah, this beer, whatever.
Beer.
Yeah.
And one day last summer, it happened to be Melancholy, and it was the first time I had listened to it in a really, 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 really long time. And I was like, it took me twice as long to cut the grass because I was like stopping and like, 33, Muzzle, poor Selena, I just want to listen to this. And just completely fell in love with that album all over again. And at right around the same time, or even a year or so before, Bob started getting into music, finding his own stuff that he liked, and he got a little turntable for Christmas, and he's getting vinyl albums and stuff. And So I found a great deal online for a Melancholy, 4 LP box set with like 2 books, slipcase. It's gorgeous.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And I ordered it like just in that, I mean, like I'm still like standing like, grass clippings on my shoes, lawn not done yet. And I was like, I'm ordering this for him. And so I ordered it. And when it showed up, he had expressed zero interest in Smashing Pumpkins. I never said anything to him about Smashing Pumpkins, but when it came, I took it to him and I said, this record is really, really important to me when I was your age. And this is for you. And you don't have to listen to it, but if you do, I think you'll like it. And when you do, if you like it, it's yours. And if you don't like it, just give it back to me. No pressure, no obligation, because he very much is like, he wants to come to things on his own.
Like you say, yeah, right.
And
he's at that age.
If I'm showing it to him or suggesting it or recommending it, it's shit. He has zero interest. So I was just tried to be very sincere about it, and the idea to even do that came from the fact that my dad did the same thing when I was about that age, but it was the White Album from the Beatles.
Okay.
He just got it for me for Christmas, like apropos of nothing. And I was kind of like, cool, thanks, But in my head, I was like, fucking, like, yeah, I want to like Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire, Dad, or whatever.
Right.
But and he didn't quite have the spiel that I did with Bob, but of course, it's the Beatles. It's White Album. I threw it in and I loved it. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And in hindsight, my dad probably wasn't as outwardly mushy or gushy or about music or things like that as I am. But I felt like that was an or a cool opportunity to do something similar with Robert. And long story short, he became a Fast fan, and he came down, and he's got Amazon pulled up on his phone, and he was like, can I order this shirt? And it's that Zero shirt.
Damn right it is. Damn right it is.
And I said, hang on. And I go up into the attic and I pull out a tub of a whole bunch of old band t-shirts, and I was like, how about like this is mine, like the same shirt, Zero with the SP heart on the sleeve. I was like, you can have this one. It was like this one that's like 25
authentic,
years old.
Holy shit, right.
Good guy. And I just folded it today in his laundry this morning, so it was kind of cool to be able to see that shirt live again. And like
that's awesome.
Just I loved sharing that with him, and I'm glad that he enjoyed it as much as he does.
And he's at that perfect age for that too.
Absolutely.
for that kind of for that music, because even like again with a diverse decade of music, and like I said, I was somebody who gravitated towards Nine Inch Nails a lot, and even like Manson in some sense too, like, which is kind of weird to kind of like, okay, how do these all fit together? You just had to be there, I guess, in a weird way. I know both Nine Inch Nails and Manson is not for everybody, like, but at the same time, when you're an angsty kid like who I was, discovering sexuality, discovering the world, discovering pushback on parents, or rebelling in some sense, we had music and we had an outlet, but there was this soft piece to it that was, to me, the Pumpkins, who man, I don't know. It's weird because even though like we were sitting here talking lightly about dissecting a little bit on them, but I don't know how to explain how that kind of music just like, it's a deep core hit on a different type of emotional level. And that's the best way I can say how like Siamese Dream, or really when even Melancholy hit, because I think I was just at that age, because my first concert was Pumpkins. And when you hear songs like Today, and I'm talking from, I guess, a lyrical sense, but the first time you hear like Zero and stuff like that, like it's right there. So it's not like it's necessarily anything that you've really got to dive deep to figure out what the song's about, but like, you feel like that at some point in your life, and right around when you're that teenage kid, that's it.
Yep.
That's where it was. And
it's magic.
yeah, exactly. And Billy Corgan, it's fun to watch where he's at now, because he's, he was always a wrestling fan, which he never really talked about. He was always kind of a comedic clown, but he didn't like the spotlight. Now he's like completely the opposite in that sense. Like he doesn't mind the spotlight. He shares a lot of himself, even in his personal life at home, which he never really did a whole lot. He's had some really good interviews over the last few years to kind of get to know him, and shared, of course, his wrestling thing and everything. But he'll put out music every once in a while. Yeah. And as soon as he does, I'm one of the first to go like, let's go. More Pumpkins music. I'm ready.
Absolutely.
I'm fucking ready. So
absolutely.
I just, again, I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but I just really appreciate that I do have somebody that, like I said, that can share that with me on a different level than just being like, yeah, like Pumpkins, all right, it's fun to listen to.
Yeah.
So
they're profoundly important and impactful.
Yeah.
And
yep, it's awesome. It's good to be able to talk about that. So, but like I said, I'm going to bring them up back later. But I do want to kind of start to veer it back home here. Do you listen to like hard metal, or like do you have like how?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, see now, I'd put Mastodon right in there.
Okay.
I mean, like they're, especially some of their earlier stuff is really heavy. I mean, like I guess hard metal. Like I love Gojira. I love.
They're kind of to me, they're one of those harder that are in like a different like of.
Oh yeah.
They're in their own category.
Did you saw the Olympics thing?
Didn't they win the Grammy or something like that? Yeah, they won like a Grammy off that.
I don't even
something
know.
Like they won something off that. But yeah, that was like.
It was so cool.
Fucking amazing. Because I've been fortunate to see them. I've seen them one time, and I want to see them again so bad. But they're like, it's a whole they're. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they're phenomenal. Amon Amarth.
That's good shit.
We saw them open for Ghosts, and I hadn't heard them, so it was kind of like
that was a treat.
It was like, and I had seen Ghost before, so I was like, wow, if they're gonna open for Ghosts, they better like bring it.
Yeah, well,
and it was like, oh, they fucking brought it.
Yeah.
They brought like people sword fighting and giant statues and dragons,
Viking metal, bro.
Sea serpents.
Fucking A, right.
Oh, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go buy a t-shirt right now. Like, this is amazing. I loved those guys. Just a phenomenal show. I'm old school in my metal too. I love Anthrax. I love Anthrax so much. And the first time I got to see them ever, I've loved them since like I was in 4th or 5th grade, and I got to see them live last January.
Oh shit!
They played at the casino.
That's right, they did.
Was it last January? Might have been the year before.
But yeah, they were in. I do remember them being in the area. Yeah.
And it was amazing. I love Anthrax. You can't not love Metallica. Metallica is like
agreed.
Staple.
Yep.
Sabbath.
Yep. I'm
actually. My son just was playing a bunch of Black Sabbath for me in the car, so we bought him a guitar for his birthday. Right.
Awesome. That's no shock, by the way. just
I'd caught him noodling around on mine a few times, and he'd gotten into it. So we went to get him. We went to get him a guitar, but we're on our way out there, and he's like, "Can I hook up my Bluetooth to the car?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, so he's playing this, and like I shamefully don't know nearly as much Black Sabbath as I should, apparently.
Right.
And he's playing me this shit like I was like, this is fucking amazing. I was like, I mean, I can't even what's it called, like fluff or something? It's like an instrumental. I mean, he played me stuff I've never heard before.
Oh shit.
Like, this is fantastic.
He's discovering
he's like disgusted with me. He's like, how do you not know this?
Right.
Like, you're old. You're supposed to know this.
Fuck. Great.
But so, and that's been really cool. Just having him like flip me onto some stuff like that. Like, what about you? What do you think?
For me, like, one of my all-time favorite bands, like at this point, metal sense, I'm a big Slipknot guy.
Oh,
like,
sure.
Corey Taylor is like he's like, there's certain vocalists that are in another, again, like how you talked about, described, like they're in an echelon that they're up here, and then there's other vocalists, and here's where they're at. Like I put him in there. I put Chris Cornell in there. Chris Cornell is probably my all-time, long time, forever, and not even Soundgarden. I just loved Audio Slave, like in his like own stuff. I just, something about Chris Cornell, like I always tell everybody, he's one of those ones, like if I hear 99% of the time, 90, I can't even get my words out. 99% of the time, if I hear Like a Stone, I gotta look away because I might start crying, because his voice in that and those lyrics are just, they're very existential for me. Don't know why, it just is. So yeah, I'm a huge Slipknot guy. I love Stone Sour. I love Corey Taylor. So I know for some people that sometimes can be too heavy. I just didn't know if you kind of leaned.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, probably like in terms of heaviness, like where I start to fall off is that like when it's just like a constant Cookie Monster type vocal.
Sure.
Like I'm trying to think of
Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah, and even them.
There's still some value, right?
I did.
I don't know what's going on there. Looks like my podcast, my sound catcher.
What kind of rinky-dink operation you got going?
Fucking no kidding. I've had this thing for a fucking year. Not even a year. Not even a year. I've literally had it since last fall, like September, August, or whatever it was, sometime in that frame. And this fucking thing. What was the last thing you heard out there, Brett? Do you remember specifically? He's saying profound things, and this thing is fucking him up.
No.
Yes, I don't even.
It's censoring me probably.
No. No, we like entrails out of cunts around here. Trust me, big fan.
Yeah, no, just like those super heavy. I mean, like there's like cattle decapitation and like I mean this stuff that's almost like the human centipede of music. Like it's just like.
Right.
Just purely created to offend in some way,
right.
And I don't mean offend like, get people's I mean like offend like the senses.
Right.
Like this music is just an assault on you.
Right.
It's an auditory assault, right? And I will say something that we talk a lot about in my house. We talk a lot about music and opinions and perspectives and objectivity versus subjectivity, and like I really try to instill in my kid, not so much now, I mean he's got his own gig going in his opinions and stuff, but like just because you don't like it doesn't mean it sucks,
right?
And like it's very just like online culture and the immediacy and the anonymity of social media and commentary, and like I always feel like the caveat of I think or in my opinion. Now obviously that's inherently implied if my name is above the comment. True. But when you just say like whoever sucks, it's like that looks like an objective statement.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
that's true.
I just feel like just because I don't like it doesn't mean that it's not good or not worth existing.
Yeah, because to somebody else,
there are very very few things that I would say like like, fuck that. That shit sucks.
Is there a band that comes to mind?
Five Finger Death Punch.
Oh shit. Okay.
Oh, I super hate them.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's one that, like, yeah, Shine Down maybe.
Okay.
Like, there's some of those bands that just at that time were like, there was a million bands that sounded like I just mix them up. And I don't want to call out any shit that anybody else really likes, but I said you asked, so
That's that's what it's all about here. Hey, I'm setting the tone. That's what's going on here. I had to hear it. No, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, I've working in the environment that I do, where there's like one radio and like a whole bunch of different people sharing a space together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you put on that just everybody's gonna just kind of like
Lady Gaga,
let it slide? Motown. Nobody doesn't like Motown.
That's fair. That's good.
Nobody doesn't like Motown, but I have gained an appreciation for pop music that I didn't expect to. I think Billie Eilish is incredible.
Yeah.
There's Taylor Swift songs that I like.
Absolutely.
There's Olivia Rodrigo.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of stuff that just popped up on the radio. Well, Gaga's a great example
I'm
too.
a big Gaga guy. I love Lady Gaga, no doubt.
Yeah, 15, 16-year-old me would have been like, because the equivalent would have been like Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, at that time.
That's true.
And I would have like crapped all over that,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, all right, I get it. Just go about my day.
Yeah, definitely. Gaga is definitely a thing. She is one of my favorite pop stars. Probably, bold as I'm going to say this here, I grew up in my home. Michael Jackson was very sacred in my home.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like, for what my enjoyment, like, she would be the biggest like pop star to me since like a Michael Jackson, like that. Just as an adult, I love Gaga. I love her work. I love her voice. I love just whatever it is, something about it.
Oh.
It's the artiness of it. I don't know. Whatever.
Massively talented.
Yeah.
Massively talented.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I appreciate that. I do like Five Finger Death Punch, but I am very self-aware about it. I understand it. I get it. I don't debate it. I don't argue it. Ivan Moody is questionable sometimes on the way he explains and understands things, I feel like, but it's dad rock or whatever. I don't hate it. I do enjoy it. I've seen him twice now, but like I said, I'd rather be self-aware if I'm going to talk about it, right? But I had a feeling that didn't surprise me coming out of you, though. I'll put it to you like that. I did enjoy that, so that was good. But well, a couple things here, and then we're gonna get to the last line here. We're running pretty good. I know I keep watching this audio here because it's really frustrating. So I appreciate your patience on that. That's a new development. I've had only a couple small issues. That's a new development to shut off that many times in the middle of this, which means maybe defaulty once again. So, but you and the wife take Halloween pretty seriously, I feel like, right? It's a pretty important holiday, I'm guessing.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
You guys put on some awesome couple costumes. Do you do it yearly, typically, or?
Yeah. I think we don't necessarily set out to do a couple costume. It has worked out that way the last several years, and I think at a minimum, it kind of helps us focus in on something.
Sure. Gets that creativity again.
Because I mean, certainly, like, the sky's the limit, right? I mean, I have a huge interest in that in general, just through the 501st stuff. Right. We do my son and I have the Ghostbusters costumes, proton packs.
You guys go full Buffalo, as I like to say, with the Ghostbuster stuff too, which was something I was going to touch on, but for time wasn't able to this time. But you guys get pretty serious on that too.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a similar organization to the 501st that we won't go through all the delicious dish on that, but just through that, I mean, that's something that I really have a lot of fun with, is is coming up with something, figuring out how to put it together. Like we did a Ash costume for my son a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
I remember that. I remember because I remember I seen the photo online. I was freaking out. I'm like, oh shit, he's Ash.
Yeah, that one came out really well, and like I mean, always, I think like I said when I was still online, the joke was kind of like, here I am over engineering a 8-year-old's Halloween costume again. He was like Scarecrow from Arkham.
Oh, that's right. I remember that one
He had
too.
like the needles, and tubes, and
I remember,
everything.
so gnarly.
So no, I mean we love it. It's definitely like a favorite holiday, and we've had so much fun working on them. And like I said, the couple costume thing sort of just happened, and I think one of our favorite ones certainly was when Ange was zombie Queen Elizabeth and I was a Beefeater. You know,
right. Yeah.
They had the whole made like the giant hat out of like chicken wire, and
So sweet.
and I made two actually. The first one I was like, I don't like it. It's like too fat and too short.
So you over-engineered the second one.
I like that. Like Halloween morning, I was like, I'm gonna make a different one. So I redid it like that same day. And then we did. I know I shared with you Splinter and Shredder from last year, which was super fun.
So cool.
And then she did an amazing, I mean amazing, and if you didn't see it online, remind me to show you a picture before I leave tonight. Bride of Frankenstein.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And the original idea was Bride of Frankenstein,
Yeah.
right?
Makes sense.
And then do like the where you do the makeup so it looks like you're in black and white, you know?
Smart.
And I flew too close to the sun on that one.
Got Icarus?
I waited too long, and it was like, this is a complete disaster. Fuck this whole thing. She looked fantastic, perfect. You'll shit when you see it. And then I already had like just this random Jason. So if she was Bride of Frankenstein, I was Jason.
Yeah, that's still pretty hype though.
And I mean, it was decent. You know,
Yeah.
it's a decent Jason, but it was disappointing because it was very much like, well, I guess I'll just do this. Because,
Right.
Because I fucking dragged my feet and
Right.
didn't get this done in time. So every year, November 1st, we're like, okay, we have to start thinking about what we're doing for next year.
That's great.
And still, inevitably, I don't think we have a decision
Still
yet.
no decision yet.
But it's hard to do stuff, especially like with painting and some of the construction stuff we have to do out in the garage. So we can't do that this time of year anyway.
Right.
We have like detached, unheated garage. So, but it's already, I mean, the wheels are constantly turning and
That's great.
No, we super love it. We super love
doubt.
Halloween.
Well, I mean, that's dedication to put that kind of love into, you know, I do know a few couples that are kind of like that as well too, but you guys always have stood out with at least unique in how deep you guys kind of roll with it as well. So, and of course now that Bob's part of it as well. So,
Oh yeah.
when I saw that Ash, I was like, holy shit. Holy shit. Cause you know, around here, Evil Dead's also very sacred. So,
Almost definitely.
you know, so, how, and you don't have to go into if it's not going to get too personal. How do you know so well our favorite local radio host? And is it true you guys are potentially dating and meeting up somewhere in public frequently?
Listen, every time I see him, I think about his gentle touch,
Right.
his beautiful eyes,
Mm-hmm.
his stubbly beard. No, I've known Matt from back in my band days is when I met Matt when he was Matt the Hat.
Which you do not call him anymore, by the way, everybody.
You do not call him anymore. Now he is program director and morning show co-host.
Yes, he is.
No, I really met him through playing in that band Born, playing at various local venues that he would come to. We played a Halloween show at a place on Midland Street, and he came as the doctor from the crazy dude from the first Human Centipede, and he had 3 like doggy style inflatable sex dolls, human centipeded together, like, and he was just dragging them through the bar. He had him sitting on like the pool table.
That's fucking awesome. That's fucking awesome.
So we met him through there. He had our band in the studio, because they used to do like that, like homegrown. It was like homegrown hoedown or
he's
something.
He's been so pivotal and all that. Yeah.
But no, I mean Matt was a massive boon to the local music scene when there was one, and that's not to say that there is now, but
right.
I'm talking pre social media, pre, like, I mean, really easy access to create YouTube content and things, where, I mean, bands are just playing, booking shows, and there's original bands all over the place. So that's how I met him, became fast friends, and just stayed in touch. I mean, Matt's a great dude. And,
he is.
I see him often at Saginaw Spirit Games and at various Bay County 7-Elevens.
I've heard the 7-Elevens. Yeah, that's so fucking funny. You guys sharing a big bite, right?
I said, tell him that I told Ange, put on Facebook, post to him. I'm gonna keep going stalking him at 7-Eleven until we can eat a big bite, Lady in the Tramp style.
It's great. Love it. I love it. He I'll never forget, like, I always tell, like, and it's really random because, like, he's friends with a lot of people on Facebook, but he knows who I am, because for a while with the morning show when I was still commuting, I would text in the morning as Fanboy Tone, and he just, or I would text, just random events. He knows who I am. Like, he literally knows who I am. Like, even last year at the Great Lakes Beer Festival, he was doing the MC for that, and I sit around and talked to him for a little bit. For a little while, we were just talking this, that, and the other, and I always appreciate about them. He's good, like, with everybody anyways, but, I'm not like I'm a social butterfly anyways. I'm very extroverted, but I'm, like, not like a weirdo, and I'm not like a dickhead. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. But, I always tell, like, for me, like, it's funny because I think of my dad, like, the music he was listening to, and I'm not going to say the name of Z93, who used to be on that years ago. But that's kind of the people that my dad listened to, and he did a bit on Saturday nights when he was still around. And I always think of, like, my dad always had, like, his morning show or the people he listened to or whatever. Well, for me, in 2001, 2, 3, whatever it was in that time frame, when Matt started at Z93, I was driving from St. Charles to Elma, so I had a 45-minute drive.
Oh, yeah.
And Friday nights, he did the Metal Militia.
Yep.
And it would be, like, 11:30, all whatever hours, just playing new metal music and shit you didn't heard. That was, like, at that point, like you said before, like, a lot of crazy social media, that was sometimes how I heard new metal music, was directly through fucking Matt. You know what I mean? And then when I lived in Chesaning, did the Showboat, he would be out there for some of those shows, different, just random stuff, and you'd see him around or whatever. But when he left and that whole thing, and I know some of the details.
Nebraska.
He went out. He started out like Missouri or something, and he ended up South Dakota. Yeah. I still follow him because I had him on Facebook for whatever reason. He let me add him as a friend on Facebook eons ago. And I would still converse or whatever. And then I always tell everybody, I'll never forget when they said they were the Cumulus or whatever, or Z93 was saying we're doing a new thing, blah 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 blah. And
that video,
dude, when he walked
and he
out
comes in and he's like,
"Hey, how's it going? Don't call me Matt in the Hat anymore. That's stupid." I'm like, fuck yeah,
absolutely.
But I'll never forget because he was on Facebook talking about how he was coming this way, and I'm like, holy shit, I wonder if it's actually Matt coming back for the morning after. And it was like no time for him and Adam to instantly have like this awesome, like, just great chemistry and rapport. And now because of them, I mean, you're talking golf scrambles. He's helped bring back music to the area and the Dow and different stuff. Like,
insanely good brats.
And the morning after brats or the snack sticks, by the way.
The snack sticks, absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. If you can find them, because sometimes you got to dig a little bit to find them, but they're fucking awesome. Those brats are really fucking good.
They are super good.
And it's prompted one of our favorite local meat places here to try to do something similar as well, too. Just saying, but the snack sticks are actually what I drive through the craziest about. But yeah, I always find that funny, especially because I do know you guys knew something. I keep seeing the pictures from the Spear Games and stuff, but clearly you know him much better than I. But he's always. I just want to always say that I'm always gracious to how nice he is to me, probably because, again, like, I'm not like a fucking weirdo. I'm very approachable, even in public, most of the time. I always get a chance to talk. I love talking to him. I enjoy
he's a stellar guy. I don't purport to know him well.
Sure.
I've known him for a long time, and we always enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know his deepest, darkest secrets
yet
as much as I want to.
Right. But someday over a big bite and maybe some nachos at 7-Eleven, you will find those out. I believe that.
Fingers crossed.
Right. That's awesome. That's great. All right. So, lastly, we're gonna run you through the gauntlet. A few questions I like to ask everybody.
Okay.
Pretty easy. First question I got for you. And you don't have to get too descriptive either, but what is a controversial hot take that you will die on the hill of that you find that 99% of the people just don't agree with you?
The Nightmare on Elm Street remake with Jackie Earle Haley is pretty good.
Oh, shit. Okay. That's a big one.
Yeah, a lot of people hate that movie.
A lot of people hate that movie.
I think there's a lot to like if you give it a shot.
Okay. That's a good one. I like that. That's a real good one. What's your favorite book you've ever read?
Favorite book I've ever read. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Can I tell you my favorite book I've most recently read?
Yes.
My wife read a book called All the Colors of the Dark by, I think the dude's name is Chris Whitaker. Last fall, raved about it, bought me a hard copy for Christmas, and I devoured it earlier this year. It's one of the coolest things I've read in a long time. Great vibes of, like, it reminded me of, like, it had flavors of, like, Stand By Me. It had flavors of the Goonies, kind of. It had flavors of, like, and then mixed in with that, even, like, Silence of the Lambs. Like, it's a thriller. Fantastic. Fantastic book. I'm a huge reader. I love Stephen King. The Dark Tower series is one of the greatest things I've ever read in my entire life.
Probably one of the greatest things that exists in reading form. Or
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Absolutely. So I know that's like 7-8 books, depending, proper, however you want to count it. But
I get it.
I love that. And All the Colors of the Dark. Shout out to Ange for getting that book for me. I loved it.
Okay. Good. That's sounds like a book we may have to get in this home then. With those kind of reviews. Britt's a pretty big reader. She's reading nonstop. She doesn't have as many books as I do, as you can tell, but she definitely loves to read. She's reading constantly. So keeping all of you learned in life so far, if you were given a choice, would you rather live forever and be immortal and then have a Queen soundtrack playing for you, like it's Highlander, or would you want to rewind time once, maybe for whatever arbitrary reason, maybe you want to change something or tell your past self something to do something different?
I don't want to think too hard on it, but immortal, would I just, like, is it like a vampire immortality? Would I just continue to age and become more and more decrepit and just never die?
No, you'd basically be like, you got the quickening, you're Highlander, you live forever, know everything.
Probably
wants to live for. I'm not Freddie Mercury. I'm sorry.
Yeah, boy, I don't know. Probably rewind, because I think at some point, you don't want to go on forever, right? No. Like forever and ever and ever and ever, and be. Yeah, that sounds awful.
Maybe the last person before the world explodes or whatever.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
Maybe more rewind.
That's a tough.
I know. I find that this question can be. I find some people that just are go here with it real fast, and then there's some that, like yourself, is like kind of back and forth, right?
Well, I kind of think about there's an incredible no pun intended, but there's a fantastic, incredible Hulk book called The End. And it was written by Peter David, one of the greatest Hulk writers of his day, and the whole gist of it is that it is Hulk on a bombed out ass Earth. He's the only person that's still alive, and there's just this little alien probe robot flying around, kind of annoying him, like one of those little like batteries not included type robots.
Sick reference, but yeah.
And he's just like, he's the last one. He's like, I can't die.
Yeah.
You know, I try to kill myself and I can't.
Right.
You know, and I think, and he's, you know, sort of getting old and decrepit. And he's ready to be done and he can't. And that sounds horrible.
Right.
So I think rewind and
Okay.
correct something, or maybe make that choice that you didn't make, or turn left instead of turning right. That's what I would rather.
Okay. Good answer.
Sorry that was long.
No, that's an answer. I like people if they can, if they're able to. Nothing wrong with doing a quick shot of that as well too, because I think definitely immortality can scare people. I feel like, but when you think about it, rewind, you could like flip an event and it could trajectory, you know,
For sure.
do some of the voting things. But anyways, last day on Earth. So kind of similar to the last, but not really. But so there's asteroids coming tomorrow. Sorry, Bruce Willis didn't drill good enough. We're fucked tomorrow. Your last meal, you can choose 5 items. It doesn't have to be like a main item and 4 sides. 5 items, 2 beverages.
Okay. I'm not going to get too specific because, like, I don't want to go like this from here. Just buffalo chicken wings, like as good as you can get.
Okay, perfect. Love it.
A bomb ass hamburger, a
Okay.
big hamburger, nothing crazy, unless it's that Rangoon burger that I was telling you about,
Oh yeah,
which was crazy good.
yeah.
But like, I mean, just a good goddamn hamburger,
Okay.
like, you know, half pound, lettuce, tomato, mayo, onion.
Just simple, like you did at the back of your barbecue,
Beauty.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Medium.
Perfect. Medium, yeah.
So chicken wings, hamburger, coney dog from Mr. Hot Dog.
Okay. We got a Mr. Hot
Love
Dog drop tonight, everybody.
Yeah, baby.
That doesn't get enough luck because that gets clowned on a lot.
Oh, dude, Mr. Hot Dog's an institution.
Okay.
There used to be 4 of them.
Damn,
in
it was a
Bay
chain?
City. Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Well, no. I mean, it was in Bay City. There were 4.
Okay.
It wasn't- I wouldn't call it a chain.
Right. Just 4 locations in the city by the bay. Gotcha.
Yes. So chicken wings, awesome hamburger, Mr. Hot Dog coney.
Okay.
My wife's green bean casserole, because it's the only only time I like green beans.
Oh, we have
Is-
something similar. Shock. I'm not a green bean guy.
Nope. But Thanksgiving, the French fried onions, and if you can get them, like she uses those like the cheddar French fried French's onions.
Ooh.
They're crazy good.
Yeah.
Green bean casserole to die for.
Okay.
And then Polish meatballs that my grandma used to make, my mom used to make or makes, and my sister now makes. They're just like this pork and veal meatball that was like my great uncle's recipe.
Fuck, that sounds.
And it's like there's like onions and celery and these meatballs,
Okay.
and they're incredible.
Okay, that sounds pretty damn epic, right? That one sounds really epic. Yeah, Polish meatball.
I'll bring you some.
Yeah,
I'll bring
yeah.
you
Well,
some.
I was gonna say I'm about to try to figure out. I'm kind of a cousin now at this point, so it's kind of
for sure.
Yeah, you know. So, all right, 2 drinks.
Oh, 2 drinks.
2 drinks. Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm a slave to Diet Pepsi. I know pop's not good for you, and
I know. I get
blah
it.
blah blah. But that's my you know, Diet Pepsi's my go-to drink, and probably just a Two-Hearted.
I was gonna say you
right
probably.
there.
I know. I'm watching the lights. I'm watching this thing cut out, so that's why I'm trying to keep an eye on it. All right. So we got you. You said Diet Pepsi.
Diet Pepsi, and then probably a Two-Hearted.
good old Two-Hearted.
Just a fantastic IPA.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
you know, gotta have a nice beer on the way out too.
I agree with that. That's great. Good stuff there. So, well, first of all, I want to just, of course, thank you and appreciate you for who you are as a person. Like I said, there's just some unique things that we talk and share that I don't get a chance to with everybody else. And, you know, clearly I'm a big people person anyways, but it's nice to have those sort of things with people because it makes those moments different and special. So I just want you to know, I really appreciate that. I love that, again, that you're somebody I can talk pumpkins with, because that's not something that just seems, it's such a random thing to get into, but knowing that music's so important to you, and it's very important to, I feel like, who I am as well. To have those kind of random conversations are really, really special to me. So just know that I do appreciate that a lot. I'm sure you know that.
Oh, no.
I would, but I want to make sure I say that out loud. I thank
Likewise.
you. But you know, one of the couple things really that I appreciate about you, just from an outwards perspective, is, you know, such an appreciation and love that you have for your wife. You're just as a family man, a father. You know, I love hearing these stories about Bob. Like, it just, I love when to hear kids like this, and again, especially when I recently saw the photo of him, like, holy shit, how much he looks like you now. It just all makes sense. So I just want to share those with you, that, you know, I know we don't get always a chance to be able to get to hang out and do stuff, and we talk about it constantly. I still have this idea for a craft beer mixer, where I get you and a couple other of my friends that love craft beer, and we all bring like a 6-pack of something, or like a random beers in a 6-pack, and we all sit around, hang out, and share some different beers, and tell why you like them. I think that would be a good time. So I think I told you that years ago. I feel like I brought that up, and I still envision that. But lastly, speaking of your family and the appreciation that I have already to, you know, get to know what I know of Ange, will you please do her and myself a favor and get your fucking blood work done?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, she threw that one out at you?
She definitely did. For Pete's sake, get your goddamn blood work done.
Yeah.
You're 46 years old. I just had my first colonoscopy last week. Everything's all good. I'm good for 10 years. But get your damn blood work done.
Yeah.
Things don't work like they do. No. I gotta see you around for, you know, Bob's later years as well. So on her behalf, please get your goddamn blood work done.
Fair enough.
That this entire conversation was a lead up to that, by the way. I just want you to know that. So, well, that's going to do it for the big talk here with John. I do, of course, have to get into the usual laundry list of little notes here for content. So, as always, make sure you guys are checking out 7 Dungeons live every 7 p.m. on Mondays for the best live streaming Dungeons and Dragons content you can see out there. Drastin works very hard writing that kind of content. If you ever get a chance, you got some free time on any day, check him out. 7 Dungeons on YouTube. If you're into D&D like that, they put on some crazy stuff, but he live streams it. It's really neat. And then, of course, Half-Ass Beer Review throughout the week, periodically dropping some great content with his craft beer reviews. Sometimes you see, again, yours truly on there. And I appreciate that he allows me to help him get to 1,000 subscribers, which we recently talked about as well too. So, and of course, shout out to Truth Beer and Consequences for always doing shout outs to us and just being some fun friends down in the Cincinnati area. They're doing great content talking about the Cincinnati Beer Podcast. They're a hoot. I really appreciate Julia and Marco for constantly, the back and forth that we do with all of our content now. I was recently on, as of last Sunday, it'll be out tomorrow, live on YouTube, on YouTube. Grown Ass Men Toys had me on, last Sunday. Yes, it's pretty awesome. These guys are a riot. They do a lot of content. So first of all, if you're a collector and hobbyist action figures, check them out for sure. Make sure to give them some love. They do a Raw wrestling recap now on Tuesdays from the night before. WWE, good stuff. But they had me on Sunday to do a toy room tour. So I was on there for about an hour and a half with my phone, walking around here, showing everything. We collectively now call this down here the museum, because Wentzilla started calling it that. So that is the name I'm going to go, because it is the best way, since I hoard everything since I was a child. This is the museum. So yeah, you'll see.
It's apt.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because it seems to be quite fitting at this point. So that'll drop tomorrow. I'll have that linked all over as well. If you're seeing this course after, it's not really going to be tomorrow, but just be on the lookout for that either way. And then the next Let's Set the Tone will be after this, about a week after. Next week, I'm having Rad Toys Galaxy. Rad our friend from Canada. He's part of World Makers Consortium. He's going to be in town doing some toy hunting, hanging out with Zilla and myself, and I'm going to get him in the hot seat as well. And we're going to talk about him being a Canadian. That'll be a big piece of it, probably. So that'll be a fun topic and conversation. Can't wait to do that.
And how we're all jealous of him.
Yeah, how we're all. Yeah.
Take it. See if he'll take us.
Yeah, see if he.
Can you bring a bus?
Yeah, can I move in? Can I hang out? That'd be great. And lastly, for our content, of course, Dude constantly is doing his awesome game streams. Assassin's Creed just dropped. He was trying to roll with that today. Was having some network issues, while I'm tonight having clearly some audio issues. But make sure to catch his game streams when you're able to. He's been working on Split Fiction, which me and Britt have been doing co-op. That is one of the best games I've played in the last decade and a half. Split Fiction is an awesome game. They don't make co-op games hardly at all these days that you can couch co-op, but also intuitive, but also takes you through an actual time machine trip through all sorts of gaming as well. So Split Fiction, highly recommend. You got to play that. It's good stuff. And then lastly, for me, just kind of keep an eye out for any of the toy content I'm doing. Check out Outpost 93J on Instagram. Make sure to follow that. And then any of the content from World According to Tone that I'm putting here in the YouTube channel. So make sure to like, follow, sub, all the fun stuff for us here at Banter and Babble. We appreciate you going through the ride as we kind of evolve our content, but also, again, having people like John to be involved and to chat with us or just even hang out. So thank you all for going through this podcast. Thank you to John, like I said, for being here, but also sticking us through this audio issue here. Hopefully I can get that addressed sooner than later, before next week. I don't know, but something's going to get fixed. But either way, appreciate your time. Take care. Hope you're all well, and we'll see you back in the museum very soon.